Okay, good morning and welcome to Mo Knows featuring me, Mo, Monica Mo Justice. All right, let me get me up on the screen, but I'm gonna have to take a moment. I'm gonna have to back out of this a second. Hi, is that the one I want to give? Yeah. Go Momo, go Momo. Okay, but I need to make sure that I don't have the double sound, so I have to go get my phone. So bear with me for a moment. I'll be right back. I'm such a hot mess. Let me check my connection. Hold up. Let me scroll up. Cause Mo is gonna roll up in a moment. Where you at, Mo? Here I am. Okay, great. All right, so I seem to have the fix for that, or at least I know what happens there. All right. All right. Let me get me back on camera. Here I am. Here I am. All right. Let me just give y'all an update. I've gotten this far in my bag organizer. So I had to run out to Walmart this morning and get me another roll because my other skein is at the office. So, and I'm impatient. I can't wait. I don't even know why I did this because you know why? That's the outside one. So, in the body of the yarn is the yarn. So I had to pull it out. So, when crocheting, when using any skein, it's easier to take it to find the inside. There it is. To find the end from the inside and work your way out. This is always such a messy proposition. A lot of people don't like to look for it. Anyway, if you look for it from the inside, you don't have to worry about it. You just do the untangling. You just do the untangling now, and you don't have to do untangling later. Do 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 do. Okay, so I got that. So we'll work on this again today. While we doing this, all right, today's agenda, we are going to look for, okay, I'm gonna have to leave that one open, but I need to find, I need to find this one again. It's so crazy because I know what I want to make. This is so crazy. And I have a whole idea about this. But don't pay me any mind. Cause I feel like I'm gonna make this the inside and come back and make a wider outside. I think that's what I'm gonna do. So that I could put, because after I thought about it, I need something. I don't really need something here, but I wanted something there. All right. Anyway, my brain is thinking. I got so many things on my mind. My brain is thinking how to fix something. All right. So today's discussion point, I want to go back. Well, notify me about that. Okay. I want to go back and watch the closing arguments from yesterday's case. Um, but I don't want to miss the verdict if the verdict comes in. But I do want to go back and watch the closing arguments with you and give you my take on that. I think that's the first place we're gonna start. If we get through that and there's no verdict yet, then we will go through prior testimony from day one, and I will opine on that. I want to remind you that you, me, everyone, we are all entitled to our own opinion, but we cannot make up our own facts. So there is a distinction between opinions and facts. And I just like to make sure I remind folks that YNW, ooh, Donna Adelson. Yeah, I'm not doing that one yet. All right. So whatever it is, I need to go to what I was watching yesterday. So I need to go to your channel and I need to go to my history. It's not a download. It's going to be you. I don't like the way this thing is set up. 15 hours ago. Do I want to watch it from Law and Crime? No. I want to go back to where I was. Boom, 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 boom. This was yesterday. Is this yesterday? Yeah, this is yesterday. There were a few days where they. Okay. Now, let me see. Let me come over here. Which one is this? Jury deliberations. It's that one. Great. Pull this all the way up. You're getting so much better at this, Momo. What can I say about that? All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to show it on the screen and make sure I have the right thing. And we're going to go back to the closing arguments. All right. Let me just tell you where we are at here. Here, the judge was reading the instructions to the jurors. Me to instruct you as to the law. After I instruct you as. So that's what she was doing there. She was instructing people as to the law. So we're going to fast forward from there. And this is going to be the closing argument of the prosecution. So what I want to do before I do that is I want to make sure that I don't miss the deliberations today. And I like to watch it from this channel. Okay. All right, so here we go. I had to make sure I keep my phone on so I can hear it. All right, so here we go.
So earlier this week, you heard me talk about choices. And I warned you, you would hear a lot of evidence, you would hear a lot of voices, you would hear a lot of footage, hear a lot of names. But I also told you, if you remember, that the name that you needed to focus on and the name that you need to remember is Hernandez Govan. But most importantly, I told you needed to focus on the consequences of his choices. Hernandez Govan.
Okay, just for the record, while we were listening over here in Motown or in Mo's courtyard, that courtroom did not say enough Hernandez Govan for me. So, I mean, I don't know where we were supposed to be listening to it from, but I definitely didn't hear. I didn't heard it.
And the consequences of his choices. And the consequences. What were those consequences? Violence, death, and loss. And not just the violent death of a famous music artist, but the violent death of a human being, a person.
Oh, we got to pause the moment. Hold up. Something's going on in real time. Let me see if I can.
Mr. Presiding, you may be seated.
All right, before I bring the jury in,
Oh, they got a verdict.
to the audience in particular, for either side, particularly family members,
Someone whose life was
you're
marked with
gonna have difficulty controlling your emotions, I need for you to step out now. And outbursts will not be tolerated. You can read through.
Pause. We got a verdict. Ooh, let's go. I came in at the right time, one time, whatever. Ooh, he looks sad. Head up, my dude. Head up, head up. What are they doing over there? You know, I can't with these peoples. I just can't. Hold up. Wait a minute. I needed to mute that. I didn't know what to do. Now I'm so nervous. Ooh.
You ready, Your Honor?
We ready.
Jury's now entering into the courtroom.
Let's go. I felt sick there. Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, have you reached the verdict?
Yeah.
State of Tennessee versus Hernandez Govan, count one. We, the jury, find the defendant Hernandez Govan not guilty in count one of the indictment. State of Tennessee versus Hernandez Govan, count two. We, the jury, find the defendant Hernandez Govan not guilty in count two of the indictment. Ma'am,
Court's in session.
ma'am. Is this your verdict? Is this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this your verdict?
Yes, ma'am.
Your verdict.
Yes.
Commissioner Birdie?
Yes, Your Honor.
Commissioner Birdie? Commissioner Birdie?
Yes.
Commissioner Birdie?
Yes, Your Honor.
Commissioner Birdie?
Yes.
Commissioner Birdie?
Yes.
Commissioner Birdie? Commissioner Birdie? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you for your service this week. You've done exactly what the court asked you to do, which was to sit, listen to all the proof, and come to a decision. You're excused.
Jury dismissed. Thank you.
Excuse me?
Go ahead, Your Honor. Court still in session.
Speechless. Forget about it.
Mr. Hernandez Govan,
Go home.
jury of your peers having found you not guilty of all charges, sir, you are free to go.
Thank you.
You may
Thank
come
you.
later.
Court's in recess.
Mm, mm.
Mhm.
Man. Jury sheets.
I need judgment sheets as to each count. Get the clerk to help our record, yeah, but Mr. Your local counsel can help you.
Go.
Mr. Dorn, I'm
Go
sorry,
on.
Mr. Dorn.
Forget about it. Woo. I'm speechless. Not because not because of the verdict, but just an enormous a waste of time. Enormous waste of time. Well.
This line sent a notification.
I can't even start my thing. I'm gonna need to see these press conferences now. I'm gonna tell you one thing, this dude did not smile this whole time. Well. I'm gonna go back to play those closing arguments again. No, I'm not. I'm gonna look for the testimony of the snitch, and I'm gonna play the snitch's testimony. I might not do neither one of them. I gotta think out loud. They taking selfies in the courtroom. These unsavory characters. Guess that's over. I just wanted to see how far they was gonna go with the string.
You've been joining this live coverage of the verdict in the Hernandez Govan trial.
What you say?
He has been found not guilty on both counts. Count one was a first-degree murder charge. He was found not guilty on that count. Count two was the conspiracy to commit murder charge. Again, found not guilty. You can see
What happened
Hernandez
to
Govan
count three?
there in the middle of the screen with his attorneys. A huge sigh of relief from him and his attorneys. As soon as that verdict was read, he was extremely emotional during the reading of that verdict, especially as it was concluded. Again, Hernandez Govan, the man that was believed or accused to being the mastermind behind the murder of young Dolph, has been found not guilty on both counts. Again, count one was first-degree murder. Count two was conspiracy to commit murder. A very quiet courtroom setting during the reading. The judge making the announcement that they would tolerate no outbursts. There were no outbursts during the reading of that verdict. All I can tell you is that as we watched it, the emotion from Hernandez Govan and his attorneys was very evident as he was facing potentially life in prison if convicted on those charges.
This is good
Hernandez
sportsmanship.
Govan, after less than a week of actual trial, the trial began on Monday. It is Thursday. The trial is now officially over. Jury deliberations began yesterday evening. The jury took this case to the back and started deliberating yesterday, early afternoon. And they were able to come up with a verdict by this time. So again, not a long deliberation. They started deliberations around 9 o'clock this morning, and have here by 10:45 have reached their verdict roughly around 10:30, most likely 10:15. We're able to.
What's up, Gears?
We're going to join the DA Steve Mulroy in our president.
Let's hear the
Has
press.
been cooperating, has admitted his role in the murder, will also be held accountable. All the people that are alive today that were involved in young Dolph's murder are people that we have done everything we can to hold accountable, and will continue to do that. I want to point out that the family obviously was very distraught, did not want to speak to the media, but they did say that they didn't blame the trial team for this result, although they're disappointed in it. They thought the trial team did everything they could. And I want to say that the trial team
No, they did
They
not.
were extremely well prepared and worked very hard.
They did
You
not.
never know what a jury's going to do. We have to respect a jury's decision, even if we
Don't blame the
strongly disagree with it. And we will continue to do everything we can to make sure that everybody responsible for young Dolph's murder is held accountable.
What do you think fell apart in this case?
He
What,
was-
what do you think could have been proven more to show Hernandez Govan?
He was found not guilty.
You know, this whole business of Monday morning quarterbacking, I just, it's so difficult without being able to speak to the jury to know what caused one result or caused another. All I'm prepared with.
Shot crackhead witness.
Trial team is very well prepared and did an excellent
No,
job.
not this trial team.
This-
No,
this was-
they was not.
I will- We'll talk later, okay?
Yeah, you going after anybody else in CMG? I don't think so. You better leave. Things need to be left to the Fed.
Steve Mulroy speaking to the media.
Things need to be left to the Fed. When you've got cases, conspiracy cases, they are best tried by the federal government and their resources than those of Tennessee. And as I was going to say before, Tennessee had what we learned from the Scorpion case.
Immediately after those verdicts were read, again, those verdicts coming back as not guilty for Hernandez Govan. Let's take you back to a little bit of what the district attorney had to say. He said that he will not Monday morning quarterback this decision by the jury or by the trial team. He did say that the family felt like the trial team did the best that they could. He also mentioned that he felt like the trial team was prepared and he felt like they did an excellent job, that basically the system is what the system is at that point. I expect that we will hear much more from Steve Mulroy in the coming hours, if not later in the day, if not tomorrow.
Okay, so we're gonna wait to see if the defense does if they interview the defense after this verdict. Herein lies the problem. In Tennessee, they have they're a deep southern state. That's number one. Number two, let's see who this is. Hold up, let's see.
Govan's family leaves because they don't want to be on camera, and they also didn't speak to us, but they've been here all week supporting Hernandez Govan in the courtroom. Even before he went in the courtroom, they were all sitting in the hallway together with his attorneys, and they just were surrounding him with support, hoping for that not guilty verdict that ultimately did come out. Now, he was very emotional. I'm not sure if you all could see it, but he hugged his attorneys immediately.
Man, it's nothing like not being incarcerated. I tell you that much. But okay. Tennessee, if you do remember the human pinata case, that's going to be the case where the guy was killed by officers, excessive force was utilized. Both the state and the feds got hands on the case. Oh, here we go. Hold up.
Let's listen into to Hernandez Govan's attorney right now, right after that verdict.
I think you get in bed with dogs, you get fleas. And it should have been done all the way through. If I could find all the holes in the case after 4 years of police investigations, you darn well know they could have. And I frankly think they shaded things, did whatever they had to do politically to make this a case, and they didn't actually go after the real perpetrators. I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I just want to do the jury stuff first and then.
All right, a very brief statement there from Hernandez Govan's attorney. We'll, of course, continue. This is a live developing situation. We'll continue to go back and forth between the courtroom and here as we continue to get more reaction from people involved in this case. Very briefly, his attorney did say that he felt like if he could find all the holes in this case.
All right, if he could find all the holes in the case. But here's the situation. First of all, the best prosecutor, Hagman, was not involved in this trial right here. I want to know why. His charisma was missing from the equation. Number one, you couldn't trust the two DAs, right? The female DAs, and this was like the worst dynamic because they got emotional in closing arguments, and I'll go back and play those in a minute. Of course, everything here is my opinion. Watch it for yourself. You might think differently, but be able to explain your position at the end of the day, because I can definitely articulate and convey mine. Okay. They fell apart in their closing argument, and they didn't bring you, nor did their case present clear and convincing evidence that this gentleman participated in a conspiracy. What you may have gotten was what the Black community does at large, right? Some crime goes down in the neighborhood, they don't engage in snitching. So what? The car was parked in front of his home in an abandoned building that was across the street. I had questions about that because in the initial trial, the one that was conducted last September, they did not tell us when they had Johnson and the guy and Cornelius Smith and the other Johnson that they parked the car in front of Jovan's house. They just told us that it was parked on whatever block that was, and they found it behind an abandoned property. Here's a few things that buzzed me the wrong way. Their witness, their key snitch, said that he needed this guy who was on trial to go in the car and get him his cell phone, retrieve his cell phone for him. And that, wait a second, sounds like they're going to interview him. Ooh, that's bold. Pause.
Just want to say,
You better thank God.
you know, thank the investigators, everybody for helping me. I didn't have the resources to necessarily, cover everything and manage still helped me, and he knew I was innocent. Everybody around me knew I was innocent. I just want to say thank you to the jurors for getting this right and getting my life back.
That's the main thing. What was it like during the trial? At what point did you think, hey, wait a minute, I think I have a chance?
I knew I had a chance from the beginning because I knew in my heart I was innocent. And so, there was times during the trial, of course, you get some frustrations and stuff here and there, but overall, I knew my innocence would prevail.
Well, it's trial. You never know what's going to happen. All you can do is prepare the most you can. There were a lot of sleepless nights and countless hours of preparation for the last, year and a half.
Yes,
I mean, the elbow grease that the team put into this, and with the help of him too, he was an incredibly helpful client. But you just never know what's going to happen in trial or what the jury's going to think. So until closings, pins and needles.
I just want to say thank you to my family and the few friends that stuck close by me during this process and knew that I was innocent as well. And they didn't shy away from me. So I just want to thank them.
You already answered it, but when you heard those 5 words, you are free to go. Is that reaction?
You want to know how I felt?
Absolutely.
It's hard to explain the feeling of knowing you got your life back. And it's one of the best feelings I ever experienced. And I'm just happy to be free.
Weight is lifted off of your shoulders.
These are stupid questions.
It's a huge weight, I was fighting more so for my son. I have an autistic son. So that's what my fight was mainly for.
What was going through your mind when you heard them say not guilty? What were you thinking?
I was just thanking God, just praising God.
Like he gets to go home.
Without him, I don't even know if I would have made it this far. He gave me the strength.
Was there a feeling of nervousness? Because Mr. Manny over here it was like he was lighthearted today. So did that sort of rub off? Because energy is contagious. Did it rub off?
Well, if I'm gonna be perfectly honest, of course I was nervous waking up. But when I made it to my attorneys, of course that all goes out the window because they're always positive and confident. So, it was a big help having them.
You talked a lot about your son. I sat at the very back row this whole time, but I saw you constantly looking back at your family. How important was it to look back, see his answers throughout the entire trial?
I want to know what kind of questions these are.
That's the judge's requested. We don't do interviews in the courtroom. We'll catch y'all outside.
Thank you. Thank you. We rolled on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we heard a lot there from Hernandez Govan when he was found not guilty of being the mastermind behind the murder of rapper Young Dolph. Obviously, they were just requested not to do interviews in the courtroom, so they're gonna have to move that outside. But let me get you caught up on some of what he said.
He needs to stop doing that interview. We over it. Go write a book.
Mentioned that he did not have the resources maybe to cover all of the expenses, but his attorneys continued to help him throughout that process. That he was very grateful and appreciative of them for doing that.
They obligated. Once they take the case and you run out of resources, they can't drop the client. So they're obligated to do whatever they, as part of their oath.
Very beginning, because in his heart, he had known all along that he was innocent. One of the attorneys did mention the fact that they had had a year and a half rather, of sleepless nights and a lot of elbow grease trying to put this trial together, put this case together, but that you never know what's going to happen during trial. So all they could do was prepare. Somebody did ask Govan how he felt about once he heard the words "not guilty," once he heard the words "you're free to go," and it took him a second to formulate the words, but when he was able to come together with those, he said it was hard to explain that feeling. He said it's hard to explain to people what it means to get your life back. He said, "I'm just happy to finally be free." He also thanked his friends and family, who he said the few that stuck behind him and stuck with him during.
Okay, whatever. All right, hold up. I'm going to switch gears now and go back to closing arguments so I can go back to show you or, evidence my feelings of why this turned out the way that it turned out. So let's go. Hold up. Mo. I need to go to OBS first, and I need to stop this, and I need to get down with this, go over here to this, pull this up. Okay, are y'all ready? Let's go.
Artistry, community, entrepreneurship. Let's take one last look at how that life ended.
Okay, if Govan would have been funny during that interview, what he should have said was, I made the right choice by selecting the attorneys that I did to represent me. We're going to fast forward in this part right here, because this was the empathy moment to try to get the sympathy of the jurors, rather than present them with clear and convincing evidence. So this is when they memorialize the decedent.
They pulled around, parked the white Mercedes that they were in, got out, gun.
Okay, 1 second.
They went to 2-lane apartments. At 2-lane apartments, that's where they switched.
Hold up. I want to get back to her speaking, but I don't want to.
They acted intentionally. And 3, the killing was premeditated. You heard in the jury instruction that in order for there to be intent, there has to be a conscious objective or a desire. You also heard about criminal responsibility. Criminal responsibility, that basically means that you don't have to be the person that pulls the trigger in order to be responsible for the first-degree murder. The jury instructions say that criminal responsibility is when someone acts with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense, or to benefit from the proceeds or results of the offense.
Okay, so they didn't show enough evidence of where, or I don't think they showed any evidence of where he promoted this stuff. The only evidence that they put forward was the statement of a co-defendant, right? Or somebody else, a co-conspirator in this instance, who stated that, hey, he was going to take 10% of my proceeds for doing this, for doing this heinous crime.
The defendant acts, solicits, directs, aids, or attempts to aid another person to commit the offense. Further, they don't have to be present when the offense is taking place. Encouragement of the offense is enough. So let's talk about what we heard this week. We heard first from Erica Thornton.
You needed to talk about what did you prove in your case this week. to meet those elements that you highlighted to the jurors. You need to connect the case that you have with the elements that they were deciding against.
She told you that she is the victim's sister. They were close. And the last time that she saw him was on FaceTime. The next thing she hears that her brother was taken from her. She told you about the person that she knew, the brother that she had, and the life that was lost. A life, ladies and gentlemen. We also heard from Raul Hopkins. He told you that he had been employed with Mr. Gordon for years as a security. He explained to you the tension between PRE and CMG. And he explained to you that CMG wanted Gordon to sign with them, but he didn't. And because of that, there's been tension. He talked about diss tracks. He talked about various acts of violence committed on Gordon. And he told you about CMG and their connection. Well, as you heard from the testimony this week, Hernandez Govan is affiliated with CMG. He has connections within CMG. He, or CMG, was in direct conflict with Gordon and the life and the legacy that he built. Govan had an in with CMG. Govan had a direct conflict with the life and the legacy that Gordon built. And then you heard from Cornelia Smith. And that's where it got interesting.
That's exactly where it got interesting, because that's where the story just didn't make sense and you didn't make it connect, resulting in your not guilty verdict.
He told you that he met Govan in 2021 through a friend named Bobby Carter. The relationship started out as transactional. Cornelia Smith had a pill problem. Govan provided the pills. And then one day, Govan asked him if he wants to make some money. Smith told you, of course he has a drug problem, he has 5 kids, he needs money. So of course he wants to make money. And he tells you about several discussions between Govan, himself, Justin Johnson, and Joe. He tells you that at one of those meetings, Govan told him that there were multiple bounties on PRE artists, including Mr. Thornton, but also Paper Route Luke. He told you that on one night, he was given guns.
This is also what's interesting to me, right? They put on this conspiracy case and they wanted to prove that this guy, Hernandez Govan, was the mastermind, right? Behind the murder or the execution of young Dolph, right? However, she's now telling us in closing arguments that there were other paper routes, so PRE talent, who was also being sought after, right? That there was a bounty over their head. And one of them was PRE Woo, right? So if this guy mastermind finding hitmen to engage to take out PRE, and you had more than one PRE artist who was targeted, why didn't you emphasize, show evidence to support that he was the mastermind of a more bigger thing than just solely isolated to young Dolph? If it was being a mastermind of sending out folks to go get this bounty that was out there and that was the crime that he engaged in, why couldn't you show other instances of that to further corroborate your allegations that he was the mastermind? That's why it didn't make sense. If it didn't make sense, you know what happened. If the information didn't fit, the jury did acquit.
By Govan. He was given guns by Govan to attempt a hit on Paper Route Luke. He told you that out of the multiple bounties on PRE artists, Thornton's was the highest. Thornton's was $100,000. So of course he jumped on the opportunity. And Smith told himself, he told you everything. He told you chapter and verse, who was in the room and what was said. And if you're thinking about a conspiracy, who would you want to hear from the most? A co-conspirator. Someone that is in the room, someone who can tell you what happened, what was agreed to, what went on. So after he found out about what this bounty was, he talked about November. He talked about how him and Justin knew about a turkey drive that PRE hosts every November. He told you that there were a few days where they went hunting. They knew that there was going to be multiple days where the turkey drives were happening. On the 16th, him and Justin Johnson went out hunting. Wasn't successful. On the 17th, he told you that Justin picked him up from his father's house. He told you that when he picked him.
Notice what you're not hearing that she said in her opening statement was, listen for the name Hernandez Govan. So she's telling you about everything that somebody else did besides the person who was on trial.
Up from his father's house, Smith and Johnson went hunting again. So when they were at the intersection of Lamar and Airways, they saw Dolph's car drive past. Earlier this week, I told you that most Memphians know Adolph Thornton's car when they see it. And Cornelius Smith told you the same thing. They knew who it was when he drove past. So they followed the car. They followed the car all the way to Makita's, and at Makita's, they pulled around, parked the white Mercedes that they were in, got out, gunned down Adolph Thornton, and killed him. They got back in the white Mercedes, and they left, but not before Marcus Thornton shot Cornelius Smith. Smith also told you that they ditched the car. He told you that they ditched the car on Bradley Street, across the street from the defendant's home. He told you that once they left the car there, they went to two-lane apartments. At two-lane apartments, that's where they switched clothes, that's where they had their wound kit, and that's where Cornelius realized that he left his phone. He left his phone and he needed a ride.
Now this is where stuff just don't make no sense to me, and they needed to do some more clarity.
So he used his co-conspirator's phone, Justin Johnson, to contact his girlfriend to pick him up. And you heard that from Angela Arnold too. She told you that she got some communication from a phone number that she did not recognize. A phone number that was not her boyfriend's. It was not Cornelius's. He told her to pick her up, and she did. When she picked him up, he got inside the car. He told her that he had been hit. He told her what happened. And he told her that they killed Dolph. You also heard from Angela that he had previously told her that there was a hit on PRE artist, but she didn't believe him. But he told her. And he told her that there was a bounty.
No, he could have told her all of this. But did he tell her that he was going to be the hitman for all of this? And if he told her that, why isn't she a co-conspirator? They not married. She's just a girlfriend. I still want to know why she was up there with a boot on her leg in the courtroom. You know, I never seen, it's whatever. I'll wait to get angry at Angela like the defense attorney did when he did his closing arguments. Back to the prosecution.
When she picked him up that day, she learned that they had killed Dolph. They both testified that after they left the two-lane apartments, they went to a gas station for Cornelius to buy some cigarettes. And
so everybody that learned, so in the hood, right? Things could happen, like a car that was involved in a crime could end up parked on your block, and you won't call the police to say it's there because you gonna mind your business. And that's basically what people do. But in this case, she's saying to you, he told her everything. Did Angela then have an obligation to turn him in at that moment?
They left that gas station. They met up with Govan. They met up at the Pressure World. And at the pressure world, Cornelius said that he got his phone back and he got out the car. Well, first he got out the car. Then he went and talked to Govan, who was already outside the car. And he got his phone back and got back inside of Angela Arnold's car. Angela Arnold also testified that the same thing happened.
How do we know he didn't have his phone? How do we know this? They didn't put on any testimony other than to tell us that his phone received no calls during the period of time when he was at the place getting his at the apartment complex getting his wound kit. But they didn't show us anything else compelling enough to say during that period of time that he claims he didn't have his cell phone, that it was actually in the car. They don't give you any evidence to support his statement that this is the events that occurred.
She's never been control before. She's driven past, but on this particular day, she pulled in. Cornelius got outside the car. Govan was waiting for him, and they went to the back and they talked. She didn't hear anything, but she saw the defendant there, and she knew that Cornelius had to get his phone.
She saw the defendant there, and she knew that Cornelius had to get his phone. She wasn't present for whatever conversation those two men engaged in. So who can corroborate what those two men discussed? That's not enough.
But then, Angela tells us, and she confirms what Cornelius already told her, that they had to get a car cover. She didn't know who the order came from, but she knew that they had to get a thing. That she knew that.
This is very disingenuous because the evidence showed that yes, they had to, not that they had to get a car cover, that they wanted to get a car cover to cover the vehicle, right? However, they didn't get a car cover in the daytime. They started looking for and researching car covers sometime in the middle of the night. See, if I was a person, how I look at that with Govan, I wish he would have had a street name, but to make it easier for me. But this dude Hernandez, he didn't. He could have met him, took him in the back there. He's a junkie. Provided him with drugs or anything else. The conversation could have been about anything else. It could have engaged about anything else. Because what the evidence showed is that it wasn't until about midnight, a little there after midnight, that they went looking and researching 24-hour auto zones and to purchase a cover for the car. This is after the incident has taken place.
They had to get a car. Cornelius testified that he got the cash from Govan to get a car cover. So that's where they went. They got the car covered.
Now, myself, I honestly think he told Hernandez about the car being parked in the back of that man's that man's property, because in his testimony he said he didn't want to get shot by him. Now, if you live somewhere and then there's an abandoned house across the street from you, and you start to see people parking cars over there, going behind the property, and you are a protector of your he said he was afraid to get shot. So I think he would have had to let him in on why him is back there on that man's property, on the abandoned lots property. And that's the extent of what he told that man. Like, yo, we parked this thing back there. I'm gonna cover it up. I'm gonna have it out of there in a couple of days or whatever. But I don't want you to shoot me because I'm back there trespassing on somebody's property. See, to me, that makes more sense than anything I heard in this scenario.
If you remember, but Arnold told us that there was some point where she dropped Cornelius off on Bradley Street for him to wipe down the car. She made a loop, she came back and she picked him up. Cornelius.
Now, if he could cover the car and he can wipe down the car, then he could have went into that car and guess what he could have got? He could have got his own damn phone instead of trying to make the rest of us believe that he met this guy at whatever world it was, Power Wash World, to get his cell phone back. I honestly believe he went over there, got his damn cell phone out the car, wiped the damn car down, and went about his business, got high off of whatever drugs he got from Govan, and then in the wee hours of the morning woke up and decided to try to find the cover to cover the car with. That's what I think happened based on this stuff. But that's just my opinion.
Told you the same thing.
And obviously the story didn't fit, so the jury had to acquit.
He told you that he wiped down the car. One piece of information given by two different people saying the same thing. And then, if we're going back to what Cornelius told you, he told you that
he said, she said, where is the corroborating evidence of cell phones, towers, and all the other stuff that you guys utilize in other cases to make it more than a he said, she said? Where's the evidence that supports the he said, she said, we said, they all said?
Before he was arrested, he ran into Hernandez Govan in the street. They parked their cars, they talked. Govan was worried that that Smith didn't get any money. He told Smith, I'm gonna go to prison. I'm gonna make sure you get.
Yo, he probably looked at his dusty self and was like, yo, they actually, you feel sorry for somebody when they've been taken advantage of. He probably was like, they ain't pay you, dude. See, and you, what's the word they use these days? You tweaking out here.
Well, of course he wanted to make sure that Cornelius got his money because he had previously asked for a $10,000 cut. He wanted his money too.
What evidence do you have to show that he wanted $10,000 cut? These are the things that a prosecution would have had to provide you with in order to support their claims. This is just nothing. This is more like an opening statement of what the evidence should show, but we didn't see this. And this is why the story didn't fit and the jury had to acquit.
Angela Arnold told you the same thing. She told you that Cornelius told her about this meeting in the street. She told you that Govan told Cornelius that he was going to go get his money. Cornelius told you that on the day that he was arrested, he was buying cake and ice cream for his daughter on her birthday. He told you how he got arrested. And Angela Arnold told you the same thing. One story, two people who told you the same thing. And we also heard from Sergeant Gabb. He was the case officer. He testified that he and other officers found the white Mercedes in the back of 1174 Bradley, directly across the street from the defendant's home. He told you, or he described the description of the car. He went through slide by slide, picture by picture, and told you that this was the white Mercedes that was used in the homicide to kill Adolph Thornton Jr. And then we got to Sergeant Brown. He went back to August 13th. He told you about an attempted shooting or attempted murder on someone named Paper Route Wood. And remember, Cornelius already told you that Govan told him that there were multiple bounties on PRE artists, including Paper Route Wood, also known as Terrence Baker.
Was Govan supposed to get 10% of Paper Route Wood's bounty? Did he tell us that?
On this date, 911 dispatch received multiple calls about shots being fired in the area of 3645 Allendale Road. This is the shooting that Cornelius was talking about. The shooting that happened because of the guns that Govan provided.
What evidence, if any, which we did not see, that I don't remember, that those weapons were supplied by Govan? This was he said, she said, and eventually it didn't fit, so the jury had to acquit.
And on this day, there were multiple calls from Hernandez Govan to Justin Johnson, another one of the conspirators. 12 calls or 12 communications between Hernandez Govan and Justin Johnson on the day of the paper route Woo shooting. 8 calls or 8 communications between Hernandez Govan and Cornelius Smith on the date of this paper route Woo shooting.
Could it be that Cornelius got some money and he was just getting his hit? Could that be why there was so many communications? It's amazing when this is open-ended like this, right? There were communications during this period of time, but they give you no evidence of what those communications were about. There was no specificity related to it.
4 calls between Hernandez Govan and Anthony Mims, otherwise known as Big Jook, the number 2 person at CMG, on the day of the paper route Woo shooting. And then we get to November. We're going to talk about the conspirator communications. Defense will have you believe that there was no communication between Hernandez Govan and the rest of the conspirators. Sergeant Browning testified that on November 2nd, 2021, there were 7 communications between Justin Johnson and the number for Hernandez Govan. On November 3rd, 7 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 20 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. On November 4th, 7 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 2 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. On November 5th, 1 communication between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. 4 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. And as we get closer to the murder, November 6th, 4 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. November 12th, 5 communications between Cornelius Smith and Hernandez Govan. November 15th, 2 days before the homicide, 2 communications between Cornelius Smith and
2 days before the homicide, and she can't even tell you what they talked about.
Hernandez Govan. You heard it from defense that there was hardly any communication between Hernandez Govan and conspirators immediately prior.
And this is terrible. I wish I would have picked up on this sooner. This is burden shifting. You heard from the defense that this didn't happen, that didn't happen. The defense had no obligation to give you any explanation for anything. This is your case. So when they talk about blaming the prosecutor in that press conference, these are the reasons why. I could bet your bottom dollar that people have looked back at this, that's on their level, have looked back at this and they have critiqued it for the same. This is burden shifting right here. The defense ain't had no reason to tell you anything. It's what did we prove?
You see here that there was communication. November 17th, the day of the homicide. On this day, 17 communications between Hernandez Govan and Cornelius Smith, the person he chose to do a job. On November 17th, the day of the homicide, 15 communications between Justin Johnson and Hernandez Govan. The person Govan chose to do this job. And 3 communications from another number of Hernandez Govan, ending in 1460. Another thing about these call records is that it confirmed a lot of what Cornelius Smith told us. Cornelius Smith told us that he left his phone in the car on the day of the homicide. Well, the call records show that there are no outgoing communications from 12:04 hours to 14:36 hours, which would coincide with Cornelius Smith not having access to his phone during that time because he left it in the white Mercedes. These are the surveillance footage that we've previously seen. Cornelius Smith told you chapter and verse that it was him and Justin Johnson that did this. He told you they entered into an agreement. He told you that the reason they entered into the agreement was because of the $100,000 back.
Using the word chapter and verse is extremely flippant. Chapter and verse. When you think of chapter and verse, I think of the Bible. So you're basically saying that a criminal who came out here and killed somebody in broad daylight now has given you some information that was like the Bible because it was chapter and verse.
These records show that Cornelius didn't have his phone. He told you that he needed Justin Johnson's phone to contact Angela. And he said that he used Justin Johnson's phone, as indicated by the records. This shows that an outgoing communication from Justin Johnson's phone to Angela Arnold's phone, given.
Or his phone could have simply been dead. He needed to charge his battery. His phone could have simply been shot at or damaged in the middle of that shootout that they did, jumping in and out of the car. There's a million different reasons that his phone was not accessible to him from 1200 hours to 14 to whatever she said, 1400 hours.
The address of the 2-lane apartment. And then he told you that he needed to get his phone back. Well, whose phone did he use? There's an outgoing communication from Angela Arnold's phone saying, "This Zebra, send me Brad number so I can get my phone," to Justin Johnson. And then they asked for Qued's number. And shortly after these text messages were sent, Angela Arnold and Cornelius Smith met Govan at the Pressure World. They told you that they went to AutoZone for a car cover. Well, the phone extractions say the same thing. There is a receipt from around that time from AutoZone, or at least it looked like it was from AutoZone. Further, Cornelius told you that he wanted his money. He needed his money. And that communication with Joe wasn't really a thing. He would use Govan as the go-between person to contact Joe. But he still needed his money. So he found a way to message Joe, and he told Joe, "What's up, big bro? I'm trying to get with you. I'm Govan's little homie you met before. I've been trying to let you hear my music if you don't mind giving me a call." Govan's home. Govan's chosen person for the job. Ladies and gentlemen, we went from this person, this life.
One thing that's very clear though, if Govan was cheating this dude, Cornelius Smith. So if Govan was cheating Smith out of the money, right? Why didn't Smith get at Govan? Like, hey, you got the money. Like, He went to the source where the money was supposed to come to. If we're listening to what the DA is saying, he sent a text message himself to the source of the money, who is now deceased.
To this. You heard from Dr. Sandberg. 20 gunshot entrance wounds to AL-45. We went slide by slide, picture by picture, documenting the injuries that AL Thornton received on the day of the homicide. She told you about the
Where's the slide by slide that this guy was in a conspiracy with the next guy? Where's the slide by slide of that?
manner of death, the cause of death. She went through his injuries, the remote bullets. She told you about the wound on his face. We went from this to this.
Emotional plea.
The defense will try to tell you that the police officers didn't do it.
It's actually an insult on people's intelligence.
That the investigation wasn't complete. But yet they put on an officer as their witness. It seems as if the investigation isn't good if it doesn't cater to Hernandez Govan. It seems as if the investigation isn't complete when it doesn't benefit the defense. You heard from Sergeant Browning that this was a two-part investigation and that he started to get involved when Angela Arnold talked to officers about Hernandez Govan's involvement. Her interview was December 17, 2021, a month after the murder. It was a month in before they even realized that Hernandez Govan was involved. You also heard that Justin had access to Jeff, that Justin was communicating with other people when he was doing his own thing. But that doesn't take away from this conspiracy. That doesn't mean that this didn't happen. That doesn't mean that Govan is not involved. Govan already had Chip's contact information. He already had Justin Johnson's contact information. He already had Cornelius Smith's contact information. And if you look at the text messages that the defense entered into evidence, you see that there's communication with people that Hernandez Govan also communicates with, like Joshua Taylor. Defense will also tell you that the investigation wasn't complete because there were other people involved that weren't charged. Well, we heard from Sergeant Browning that this investigation is ongoing. By definition, a conspiracy is an ongoing crime that is continuous in nature. And sometimes you just don't have all you need to charge people. Sometimes people die. And you can't indict people that aren't here anymore. And if all that isn't enough, you heard from someone that was in the room when it happened. You heard Cornelius Smith. You saw the videos. You heard the testimony of Angela Arnold and Sergeant Browning that support what he's telling you.
Oh, maybe there's a break in this. I think there was.
Even Angela Arnold told you that the day he got arrested, when she was with him, he had taken some pain medication. And ladies and gentlemen, remember the call records. These communications don't lie. They coincided with dates of importance. The week of the turkey drive, August 13th, the shooting on Cape Road Wood. They don't lie.
Poor Cornelius. First of all, he's the shooter who's seen letting loose the goose at the Makita cookie shop, right? He's the one who came out here and decided to turn state evidence on everybody. To me, I characterize him, Smith, as being the mastermind and getting in bed with, if we were to believe he got in bed with people to do the killing, he also got in bed with the prosecutor to do some slaying of some regular citizens. So at the end of the day, he's just been, if we were to believe him like they want us to do, he's just been manipulated all the way around. He's a victim of everybody. But I hope the judge gives him a life sentence when he gets to come back before her, the same judge, for sentencing, even though he cooperated and gave all this information to them. I hope she still gives him a life sentence because he took a life.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. But let's get into the law one more time. Conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The defendant.
All right, while she gets into the law one more time, where was her evidence to link Govan to the conspiracy? She gave you all the facts that we know, right? In terms of there was a man alive and there was a man who was executed. She gave us the facts of who executed it. But where was the evidence to support the conspiracy? I think this is what they're missing in their case structure.
Entered into an agreement. What is the agreement? What is the agreement? The agreement is if you kill Dolph, you get $100,000. You need one or more people to be a participant in that agreement. You heard from one of them, Cornelius Smith.
All right, Govan didn't have the $100,000 to pay anybody out. So how is he the mastermind? Wouldn't the mastermind be the person that had the money to pay for it?
We know there's Justin Johnson and there's Hernandez Govan. There is an agreement. And what also do you need? You need an overt act. Earlier I told you that an overt act in a murder case is often the murder. Well, you saw videos of that. You heard the defendant, you heard the shooter, Cornelius Smith, testify that he killed Adolph Gordon Jr. For first-degree murder, it has to be a premeditated killing of another. When we talk about premeditation, we know that there's no timeline on premeditation. It could be months, it could be weeks, it could be days, it could be a few minutes. All you have to do is have time to reflect. All you have to do is have time to think about what you're doing. Well, they had plenty of time. Cornelius said that they talked about this well before this murder. And we saw that the hit on Paper Route Blue was on August 13th. There was plenty of time to think and reflect about this murder. And as you saw from the video, it happened. For criminal responsibility, all you have to do is you have to have an act with the intent to promote or assist the commission of the offense or to benefit in the proceeds or the result of the offense. Smith told you Govan wanted his cut. He wanted $10,000 from Justin Johnson's cut and from Cornelius Smith's cut. That sounds like proceeds. Further, you don't have to be there when the trigger is pulled. You saw the video, you know that Hernandez Govan wasn't there, but that doesn't mean that he's not responsible for ending his life. Ladies and gentlemen, the safe burning.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
Is reasonable doubt. You heard in the jury instructions that reasonable doubt means moral certainty. You have to be certain for every element of the offense. That's my job.
Did you do it? Did you prove
Certainty
it?
Means that you can sleep easy at night knowing the decision that you made. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not 100% certainty. It's not beyond all doubt. It's beyond a reasonable doubt. That is the standard. Once you've looked and reviewed all of the evidence, all of the photos, all of the videos and testimony that you've heard this week, it is a state's position that we have fulfilled our burden. We ask that you, the jury, make a choice. We ask that you make a choice to hold the defendant, Hernandez Govan, responsible for his action. We ask that you find him guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Thank you.
We can break your office, just like I said. 5 minutes of recess, so we're supposed to all throw it in.
Now listen to what the defense has to say in his closing argument. Now, I wasn't overall. I was not happy with the prosecutor's closing argument because I felt like it did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they didn't meet their burden, point blank. So I'm gonna let you listen to the or we're gonna listen to the defense closing argument and then the rebuttal from the prosecutors, which I think was the worst performance ever in this whole thing. I think they then took this personal instead of looking at it from a professional edge and staying their grounds and coming back and highlighting their points. But again, these are seasoned attorneys, and I believe they don't work off of no written documentation. And when they do, they just surpass it. It's like as if it was just talking points. And you'll see with this defense attorney how when he does go through his formal presentation, he's like already covered. No need to revisit this or what have you, because he's ad-libbed most of his talking points in person. He only went through the PowerPoint to make sure he didn't miss something.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your time last week. The fucking hotel room was up to see over there. Let's make sure that your mind isn't get jaded as well.
All right, so I am correct. The jurors were sequestered because he just said that they were stuck with in the let's back that up so y'all can hear him, because I thought that's what I heard yesterday, but I wasn't too sure. Let's go back.
Which 12 are going to be actual jurors? Mr. Govan. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time last week. You can stuck in a hotel room with no see over there. Just make sure that your mind doesn't get jaded with regards to anything you see on the press. We talked about first appearances. I also talked to you about the fertility of criminal justice, and I hope you can see the bar now. I don't know anything about the 16 of you, which 12 are going to be the actual jurors. Mr. Govan doesn't know. I don't know if you have kids, if you're rich, if you're poor, if you live in Orange Meadow, if you live in a nice part of Memphis, you see that I'm from right now. But all I have is trust in you because you said you want here, Mr. Govan. Govan, stand up. Come sit at the table and let them see you. It's time you're not marginalized anymore. Sit there while I come. The fragility of the system is solely based on you. I don't know in what world the prosecution is living in this case, because I don't know if they were watching something in the multiverse.
I don't know what world the prosecution in this case is living in, but whatever. He was just straight to the point, straight shooter. This is very important to try to humanize your client in the midst of everything.
The witnesses were saying perfect thing. This, I don't know why we're here. You all should be embarrassed as a community that your district attorney thinks this evidence is sufficient to take a man's life for first-degree murder. You should be embarrassed that this is the person you voted for that brings this type of case. Just embarrassed. Many of you say that a problem in the criminal justice system because too many people go free or they get fined. What they don't tell you, what the government doesn't tell you, the press doesn't cover, is this is what happens when you don't have an advocate that knows what the hell they're doing, checks all the records, fights for you, and shows you that he didn't do it. That's just another black man that is of no value from Orange Mound, that's poor, that has never had a voice in his life. I'm fixing that. My team is fixing that. He is indigent, he is poor, and he deserves better than he's gotten in this case. Sergeant Browning, who's the biggest liar that I'm gonna go through with you, says we can't kidnap people and bring them in for questioning. What did Angela Arnold tell you? They threatened to have me arrested, being involved in this case if I didn't talk to them. We went to the airport and we figured he was gonna assert his rights, so okay. What about the second guy, Mr. Sears? His lawyer said he wasn't in town.
He basically said they couldn't kidnap Juke, right? Big Juke. They couldn't kidnap him and bring him in, right? But what they actually testified to was that the detective said we couldn't bring him in because he had a lawyer. And all of the people who are deceased now that they couldn't bring in then are deceased because they had a lawyer and these people didn't take them into custody. What that says to me, when I hear all of this, I say the streets was a popping. And sometimes, unfortunately, while justice is running around here blind, there's street justice and it don't take its time. It's the only thing that's swift.
When you talk about accessories and all this other stuff that the judge has told you about, how about the people that helped hide it? How about the people that helped give him new clothes? How about the people that gave him medical treatment, assuming they weren't even shot? Because you know what? I don't even know if he was shot, and I don't even know for a fact if that was the Mercedes used in the murder. Because why? There was no blood in the Mercedes. Had there been any blood to back up what Cornelius was saying, they would have plastered it front and center here. Their own lieutenant from crime scene that they did not call tells you no one wiped that car with bleach because luminol or the other star thing, whatever it was, would show that. And if somebody said, I poured bleach on a towel and I wiped that car down, they would be. I don't know what world we live in. None of you would buy a pack of gum based on the word Cornelius Smith. You wouldn't do it because he's a lying piece of so-and-so that will do anything. Lie to his pretend grandmother, his family, his girlfriend, anybody. And I'm going to prove it to you as we're going to go through a few more slides. And Detective Browning may even be worse because that's just pure evil, trying to put people in prison based on shaded evidence. Daphne told you the truth that we didn't do all this other stuff that we should have done. We didn't get around to it. It was a book. He wasn't happy about it, but he told me the truth. The other guy couldn't answer a yes/no question. It was always dodged and deflect, which is what they're taught to do as part of their training when they go and come and testify. These are the people that are policing your streets. You should be ashamed. The only crime that's being committed here today is in this courtroom. It's been committed for the last 3 days. This poor man will never get his life back because of what's happened. He's been threatened because they all think he's involved in the young Dolph murder. Everybody loves Dolph. Dolph has been threatened for years. He moved away from Memphis 5 years ago. He had 3 old bullets in his body from other times he'd been shot at by people, being in Charlotte, being in Los Angeles. Everybody knew there was a price on his head. There is no plan. There's just no plan. I tell you why, because if I made a plan and I go back to my house across the street with a murder car, are you freaking kidding me? And then they go and call around to see where can we go to get changed. We are across the street from the guy that planned the murder. We don't go to his house to change clothes, but we ride around town until somebody picks up the phone, as you see from the records, and we go to 2 lane while we're bleeding and doing.
Reasonable doubt. He introduced reasonable doubt. Yo, we parked the car across the street from the guy who was supposed to be the mastermind, right? But we go all the way across town to get medical treatment from somebody else. Make that make sense.
Everything else. Have you seen a single photo of Angel Arnold's car, the Mercedes, or anything that had a drop of blood in it? As if they said, Cornelius is a pathological liar. I don't even know if he got shot on that day because you have to ask yourself. There is a bullet lodged in his shoulder for a freaking month. He didn't get infected. He didn't have a problem. He just put some bandages on it and it was okay. Please, for the love of God, this is insane that I even have to talk to you about this. If this is what is sufficient evidence for.
Now, that is another good point. A dude was supposed to be shot, have a bullet in him, and nobody tells you how they got the bullet out of him or what had happened for his wound care. He just got a wound kit. That's what he kept talking about. Not to mention that when good old Angela was testifying, she had said that they had went out of town a couple of times. They done been out of town and back again, right? But they went out of town so she could go on an interview at Grady Hospital in Atlanta. It only made sense to me because, you know, I watched the YSL trial. So now I know where Grady Hospital is. So they went to Fulton County. Make this make sense?
Murder. We're all in trouble because you're gonna be assault, all these charges they gave you. There's 15 different ways they're trying to make this guy. I didn't assault anybody. He didn't assault anybody. He didn't aggravate assault anybody. He didn't solicit anybody. He didn't facilitate anybody. He didn't act at whatever age anybody. It didn't happen. All the text messages, all the phones, everything they said. Have you seen one single message from Justin Johnson or Cornelius Smith that says, "Hey, bro, let's go shoot somebody"? I gave you tons of messages over their objection where Justin Johnson is talking to other people, talking about killing people. They weren't disagreeing about it. Where is a single message to Govan from any of these people over the course of 4 months that says we're going to do this?
Reasonable doubt. So here we are. Where is a single message, right? So this is what the prosecutors was supposed to be doing at this moment. They were supposed to be like, where's a single message? So when they get to do their rebuttal, they should have been like, yo, where's a single message? And show the comment and show where was the single message. Guess then what would have happened? The jurors would have went back and deliberated and they would have looked through those messages. Instead, they left it open-ended for them to do the investigation. Listen, I'm staying in a hotel for this trial. Let me tell you what I'm not about to be doing. I'm not about to be back there in the hotel coming back to deliberate and be looking through a whole bunch of paperwork to figure some stuff out when you brought a junkie to testify and tell us all this stuff that happened. I'm not losing no more sleep and no more time on something. You should have showed them the way. Reasonable doubt. Their story didn't fit, so the jury went and acquitted.
We get your permission, we're gonna give you $10,000, for $38,000, for $50,000, for $100,000, for $1.5 million. You think if they would have had it, they wouldn't have shown it to you? They know the truth is the text messages are only about music because he's friends with Justin. I'm sorry, Justin's not a nice guy. You all live in the same neighborhood. We've all known each other. Just because you have quote communication doesn't mean you're in the conspiracy to kill someone. Cornelius. Let's go over the slides. This will speak for itself, and I'll let you think about it because I've hammered the point about didn't prove it. I don't need you to say he didn't do it if you don't want to, but they absolutely, for God's sake, didn't prove it. For the next slide. All right, so excuse me. So you see this?
So he basically said, I don't want you to say that my client didn't do it. I want you to say they didn't prove to me that he did it. Good words. Good words. Good words. He said, those some good words. Nice choice words.
Absolutely. This is Star Defense Exhibit number 1. This C bra, so needs to use Cornelius. Send me bra number so I can get my phone, right? He needs to get his phone. Next slide. Quez's number. Guess what he told you is the one honest thing he said. His brother's freaking name is Marquez Smith. They called him Quez. His brother is the one that got the phone at best. You know why? Because they had TBI up here. They asked him to do location data now.
He said, send me bro number. And the number he sent was Marquez Smith number. That sound like it. Oh, I didn't even pick that up.
This was right. You guys remember all that. And they did it solely for Cornelius' phone, and they did it for Dustin's phone. But yet they didn't show you any location analysis. All they have to do is say it's in that general area, this is where the tower's being. This calls are being made. Where was this call from? Where was his brother Quest? They just yes, you constantly, and here I'm fighting for this man's life. He's your peer. You need to be here protecting him from this. This is a crime. Next time. So I'll just go over a few things on Cornelius Smith. I think that was pretty obvious from his statement. Go ahead, Robert. I think all this is obvious. You got a sociopath on your hands that's out there on his daughter's birthday. If he's intoxicated, he's not intoxicated, just ask the prosecutor to tell you the straight answer, honest. Do you even think a prosecution would take advice from Cornelius Smith on anything? But it's good enough for this poor man's life. My dad used to tell me, you know, somebody's honest, would you loan him money? Raise your hands if you're gonna bet loan Cornelius money. Because that's the crux of the whole case. And a bunch of BS cell phone records that don't tell you anything. Because they didn't do the location analysis, they can't give you a single text message that says we agree to do anything. And we know it was at least 4 months between the so-called meeting between multiple shootings.
He said they chose not to use location analysis. Very interesting. He's pointing out what they chose not to use. Remember, their story didn't fit, so the jurors went and acquit.
Just a winner. That's and if you're not biblical, I'm sorry, but growing up that way, it's just, used to be told, the truth never changes, you don't need to remember it, you don't need to practice. Why were we meeting with prosecutors and lawyers now report? I don't want to deal, I'm just here out of the goodness of my heart, I'm gonna get a mandatory life sentence. Insane. That's... We also showed you the letters from Cornelius that he sent to his sister saying, I've got that lawyer that you're paid for, this guy's lawyer, and that guy cooperated against somebody else and walked from a murder. That's what you have in black and white in Cornelius' own handwriting. And that is what all of you said when I said, what would you do to avoid a life sentence?
Another thing that's bothering me here, right, is why would an attorney in good standing, right, take dirty money, take blood money to represent somebody? If you're being told that your client's money is coming from the proceeds of a homicide, right, that he is being accused of doing, you could lose your proceeds because that could become evidence in the case. That money could be, man, I don't even understand this. I can't wait to see Smith when he goes before this judge for his sentencing. I just can't wait. I just cannot wait.
You guys said probably anything. All right. We know this to be true. Next. And we know all this to be true. Next. And we all know this didn't happen. It just didn't happen. This story just didn't happen. And both he and Angela said it. Because, remember, he had talked to his family to go see Angela between the 14th of December, her first statement, when she didn't know nothing about nothing, and the 17th of December, when she's decided. And note how they have to prompt her to ask, could it be somebody with the name Q? And note, they had to ask her, didn't you forget something? Didn't he tell you something you might have forgotten or something that you needed? They had to prompt her. This is 30 days after that. You don't have to.
The judge is sitting there with her hands crossed. She's like, man, y'all done lost this one. Y'all done, this defense attorney done chewed you up and spit y'all out to the 10th degree.
Remember the truth. This was the biggest day in somebody's life. You would think, I just killed a dolphin running around, and she can't remember who the guy was that picked up the stuff at pressure room. Oh, shocker. There's a few cameras at pressure room. They had the absurdity to tell you, well, do you know how long the camera might be working or how long it records? You don't know how to find that out? Maybe go there and ask them.
I think that was a great scare tactic on the defense's behalf as well. By telling he kept trying to catch people in their lies or lead them to believe that they wasn't being as truthful as they could be, because he would threaten them during their testimony and be like, I'm just going to show you where you said this at. I'm just going to show you where it's at. It had people who were not confident in their story because, one, it wasn't the truth, right? Or wasn't as truthful as it should have been, second guessing themselves as they were testifying. Well, I'm going to show you what you said. That was crazy, but that existed in this case.
We've had ring cameras and other things like that for a decade. It always goes to cloud, most likely it's gonna be preserved for a year or so, which is what most businesses would do.
He told witnesses, right? Especially the two witnesses, the killer and his girl. He told them, and I don't even know how you sitting around your man that you just a girlfriend to, right? Has been found. He's I don't know what kind of time he's facing because he ain't been sentenced yet. But you seen him kill a person the whole world done seen the video footage of it. How's that still your man? To love do us part. And last but not least, he's starting to show you that there are cameras everywhere. And he's telling you to corroborate your story. They should have those cameras. So he's basically planting a seed in their head, like, even though you told this bullshit story to them, and they're presenting it here in the real world, they putting it here on a trial because this is based on information. You know, this is the information they have at the time, and they going by that information at that time. The information is subject to change if they get new, if they find out new things, right? Based on the information available to them at this time. That's what they're going on when they're dealing with these people's conversations. But what if they did have video footage of these locations and then you was not captured doing what you said that you proffered as what you did? Remember, the proffer is only good, and we won't talk about it if it's on a federal or state level. We're just going to talk about proffer in general. It's only good that they can't use the information that comes out of your mouth to convict you, but they could use other information as long as it wasn't founded through the information you gave them. They can go right ahead, big mouthed, and sat up here and testified and did all of this stuff, but they could use other information, not self-incriminating conversations that he had, not perjury that he may have engaged in on the well, they could use the perjury against him. If he perjured himself and they found out different things, they found out that it was different. They found different information. So at the end of the day, this was the worst witness that they could have had. They should have just went with what they could find out, but they wasn't interested. All in all, even though the decedent was a famous person, loved and adored in that community, these people that fight for justice, they didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't care at this. I still want to know, where is the other DA? Until somebody could tell me what happened to, wait a minute, I'm gonna tell you his name. Hold up. Hagerman. Someone needs to tell me what happened to DA Hagerman and why wasn't he involved in this case. I've watched Hagerman since the death of the basketball player. He was also he was involved in this case with the first trial. Where was he? Why they didn't have him for this conspiracy? Is that a tall tale?
Especially in the next one. It's crazy MPD. And everywhere. You drive home and see that little blue thing coming out of it. Like, sure.
Notice which cameras he's pointing out that's around. The MP. So he's saying the Mississippi Police Department, the MPD cameras. Why didn't they get those cameras to give them more information or details on this particular crime?
Use some of those right out in the area. Nobody checked in. You don't have to take my word for any of it, because everything I'm telling you is gonna back up. Evidence. You don't have to trust me for anything. You don't know me. But I want independent proof before I get in bed with a murderer, with a machine gun that shot a guy 20 times in broad daylight, and thank God he didn't kill anybody else that could be shot. And this is a vendetta. Thanks. All right. Sorry, I just have to calm myself down. The other things were just
A lot of them need to themselves down because it's coming.
shenanigans that they try to tell you is when the officer accidentally said, I don't even know if it was Justin something, I think he said that, but he said AKA Dolph, I'm sorry, not Dolph, Brown, in that. And Mr. Cornelius says, yeah, I met him through miscellaneous in a moment of weakness. And you know, when I ask about it, now you smile. You have murdered somebody, and we're up here chuckling, the government's chuckling with him, and he's laughing at me, making smirky faces and says, I saw you on TV. That's the behavior you want from the guy that took a machine gun and murdered people. In fact, his definition is I didn't shoot that many people because sometimes we didn't get the shots off or the gun yet. And you're gonna make a deal, not a single text message anywhere, take my word for it. And oh, by the way, I think he's a federal snitch. I don't know if I believe that or not, because he's never snitched on me. Okay. And then the older tells Uncle Ron, maybe we should have gone and talked to him.
Yo, he called Smith a psycho snitch. You can't make this stuff up, I'm telling you.
Policeman, and I'm not trying to put anybody in prison, but there was a bug on him, that he's a snitch, and so you're gonna have to plan a big old murder. Next. So we know he paid for his lawyer, and we know that was a team issue, and you know the absurdity of the prosecutor in their last name. They're gonna get to go up again and call me every time they go, we just find out, I would take those errors. For this man that don't care about it for the last year and a half. They had the audacity to tell you we can't indict somebody that's dead. Should have died 2.5 years after all this happened. Remember, Dustin Johnson was indicted in December of 2021, about a month after this happened. Cornelius was indicted in January of 2022, about a month and a half after this happened. There is no investigation done in 2023 or simply 2024. It was done. They indicted and got who they wanted. So at some point, you gotta ask yourself, what happened here? And I have no idea. But it's not my burden to prove this for us. If you believe Cornelius, he says Joe is the one that set it all up. His girlfriend says that. Then they backtrack and say, well, he was there and he set it up, shooting over. What do they have? Keep going. And with Miss Arnold, I don't know how you date a murderer that's been domestic violence to me, stolen from me, done this. I don't know whether she's my fault or not. It just
That I don't know how you date somebody that done domestic violence me, shoot me, pull a gun out at me. Like he's like, I'm so confused here. But okay, let's go.
talk about it. Her story's still iffy as far as that goes, and God bless her. I hope none of you would be with her. Essentially, soon to be convicted murderer for 4 years after all this happened. Right, next. And the interesting thing there was, we keep talking about the car on Bradley. Bobby Carter also lives on Bradley, and Bobby Carter was involved in the shooting with Mr. Cornelius. And in fact, Angela says Bobby was involved in the double shooting as well. Next. All right, we already know this.
I think we're gonna hear Bobby Carter's dead too. Like everybody's deceased. Everybody's a decedent in here.
We also know about the varying amounts of money this whole thing was worth. So now we get to the meat and potatoes of a few things I want you to consider. Remember, the two pillars to this case is you gotta believe Cornelius Smith, and I just told you over and over again. You have to have an agreement, you gotta believe it's out there, otherwise it's nothing. They've come up with 15 different methods from murder to second degree to 30. I'm sure it's 47 degree murder. None of this stuff happens. There's no assault, there's no solicitation, there's nothing. So let's talk about the detectives. Next slide, please. All right, so the Detective Browning, the all-powerful Detective Browning, told you that Govan last thought. Oh, I'm sorry, I got my slides in, sorry. We know Dabney, who actually I respect him, so nice talk to him. He said they didn't do it straight up. Didn't try to sugarcoat it, we just didn't do it. Didn't go to pressure wall to confirm anything this man was saying. Tells you straight up, they didn't go to AutoZone. Tells you straight up, there was no relevant evidence of AutoZone. So there's a single receipt that's all crumbling, you can't tell where it is. That's supposed to be some kind of evidence now. And they didn't get around to investigating Joe, who was on Team Cornelius or wherever you want to call it. At least he was honest enough to tell you that. Yes. So these are the slides you saw yesterday with Detective Browning, and this is where the evil of it all comes in. Yeah, these little detail records for you. And this slide cuts off at 11:16, at 3:01:17. Right, they stopped it right there. I've highlighted for you. That was the slide. You might wonder, maybe what's the big deal about that? It's just a phone call to somebody, no lead, right? Yeah, he's talking to Cornelius here, no problem. But guess what? If they would have given you the full story on the slides where they turn by at you, next slide. You see, on the same 11:16 at 5:37:15. This is Jukes number. And he spent a 6-minute phone call. It's not on the slide. I had to pull that off the call.
I think this really hurts the prosecutor as well, because it looked like they were concealing evidence and only wanting to show evidence that was in favor of their argument, and that they were intentionally misleading somebody. So when you're working this case, you're saying like, oh, wait a second, I can't trust, like, it's bad enough y'all done went and pulled up the junkie and his girl to corroborate all of the things that you said happened. But now, on top of this, you have now given us limited information, or you synthesized the information or censored it so that we wouldn't get the full and accurate story unless we do due diligence behind the scene. This is your case. If you're willing to let this man who executed somebody in broad daylight back on the streets sooner than later, why should they dive deeper? The information didn't fit, so this jury went and acquit.
Bigger record, you will never find it or see it because there's thousands of pages of all information out there. But you see, the thing stops up there at 3 o'clock. They don't tell you this part. That Justin Johnson called the joke before the murder and also sent him a turkey emoji. If you're a law enforcement officer, your job is to investigate and the facts are where they may. You don't have a job to convict people. That is why I respect Dabney. He made a mistake, he owned it. Browning is a liar, pathological liar through and through. Next slide.
The detective that he's or the officer that he's referring to, right, is also a retired officer. He don't got no stakes in this anymore. He's not playing the game anymore. So he was more free to express himself as clearly as he wanted to express himself.
Okay. This where they, Browning also told you that they last talked to Govan on November 5th. Remember an opening statement I told you Justin Johnson had not talked to Govan for at least 2 weeks prior to the murder. No communication whatsoever. But they kind of tell you that, oh yeah, on November 5th, he must have talked to Govan. And then Cornelius last talked to Govan on November 15th. Just remember those. It was very specific that they argued. So let's go to the next slide. So what you'll see is on November 5th of 2021, this is Govan's number. His name is Govan. He's getting a call from Justin Johnson. You see this? This is the communication they had on November 5th. How many seconds is that phone call? Let me break it down to you. Zeros. It never went through. There was no phone call for at least 2 weeks. No text messages. Nothing. And this is the guy who's planning a murder with the most famous person in Memphis. Are you kidding me right now? Next slide. So there's an old movie that says the tail wagging dog. You've got Cornelius telling him what they want to say as he tells you he likes to do. And everything they're trying to do back up what Cornelius says. There is no explanation why they didn't go talk to Joe or bring him down for questioning. There's none. There's none. Right, next slide. So just go through here. That's 10, 12 phones up. Go through all of them. Find me a text message where a single human being tells Hernandez Govan, we need to do something. That's evil, that's violent, that's criminal. Browning told you he just came up with these slides just a day or two before all this happened. This is 4 years after the fact. And I'm seeing the slides for the first time. And the slides are complete BS because they keep misleading you about stuff. And so if the incriminating text existed, they would have showed them to you. They cut off records in half so you can't see the rest of the story. For the next one. We know he agreed with me that these text messages, there's thousands of them with Justin Johnson. It's about music because Justin was in videos and all that stuff, and Govan was there. He was a colleague, a friend, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't make you a murder criminal. And we know he talked to Cornelius about pills. 14 communications is what they call it. What they don't tell you is how many of those 14 actually went through. What were the phone call codes? Remember, 11 is important because that goes to voicemail, or it could be too late, or the call goes through properly. Is it a text message? I don't know. Last night.
Hey, Govan, if your day job was selling pills, I suggest you find another day job because they'll be coming after you. You need to change your occupation because they gonna be mad.
I'm talking to my daughter, just about her boyfriend. Between okay, yeah, no problem. I had 16 communications with my daughter in a span of like 3.5 minutes. It doesn't mean anything. You can't presume you know what communications are about. If in fact, for the love of God, they even went through. I want to show you one bald-faced lie by the government right there. There was no call on November 5th. Keep going. So we have an emoji, we have a 6-minute phone call, and you know this secretive plan, PRE, as the bodyguard told you, this is social media. They do this every year. This is what they do. Remember, he's a man of the community. They put it out there. Everybody knows they're doing turkey emojis every year. Most of you probably know about this. Yeah. All right, get this. And then we have this. It's not anything that we get voluntarily out of that man. We had to press and press and press to show that Duncan Johnson already knew you. Didn't need our guy to do any of it. That is why you will never see a single text message of any incriminating nature. Because I can promise you, had it said anything, a comma out of place, they would have it flashing up here on board saying, see, we got it, we got it. Yeah. All right, so Garner, he said, MPD asked me to do what? Location analysis of a couple of phones. Justin and Corey. All you have to do, plug in a number on a computer, keep it done. Hey, it's all seeing no pressure on. And you want to leave one. Even if you choose not to go there, you just ping. You don't need the actual phone to be gotten rid of it. You can just order the CDRs from the phone company. He did cell phone tower analysis for a very short amount of time, and then it just stopped. This kind of investigation in Memphis we call sufficient. We put somebody in prison for life. And none of the other phones were done. Where was Jeff? Hell, where was anybody else in this case? Yeah. All right, we've got this. So out of that. Go next. Cover the AutoZone thing. I just respectfully ask. If the audacity to put a complete receipt in front of you that you can't read and just say, I just know this now. It is not mentioned in any police report anywhere as I asked, and he couldn't answer the question. But now suddenly it shows up in the phone. We know Gabby knew this was garbage because they probably got the oral report for you. You can't put a date, time, place on against all what they call red herrings to mislead you. Think there's something nefarious out there and just use your imagination. You would never let this happen if somebody you care about when you saw them. Some of you might be supervised. If this half-ass work is what they brought to your desk, you would fire that person immediately. That's what make you look. It's no county freaking embarrassment with regards to this trial, and the whole world is watching.
He said this whole thing is an embarrassment. This is why you had the immediate press conference thereafter, and this is why you'll see.
This is what we got. Last things you gotta ask, if I set up the plan, I don't know if I'm having the murder car come to my house. And if I'm having the murder car, I'll give you some side and change clothes there from riding all over town, try to find a place to go change. And again, I know you may think I'm crazy, but there's no blood in that car. Was this even the right Mercedes as far as they got? You remember Treon Ingram and another gentleman that stolen that Mercedes a while earlier? Treon Ingram, no, that's fine. Because Treon Ingram picked up another murder right after that. Where did the blood go? Cornelius told you point blank, no ifs, ands, or buts, and girlfriend. I took bleach and I wiped it out. Lieutenant from CSI with 28 years experience. Where's Angela's car? Remember, she said he was bleeding all over. Where's the evidence of any of that?
He said, where is Angela's car? Like, where's Angela's car? Now, this is commonly used about the burden. And so he's ready to finalize his argument.
But all I do is cross my hands and beg you guys, he is your peer. There is no evidence here. You would never accept what's happening in this courtroom in your own personal lives to make any decision of any kind. And he deserves that same respect. There's nothing here. They're going to come back up again. Remember we talked about first impression. You need to use your mind, your eyes, your ears, and your noses, and hold the significance BS on this whole thing that they're about to give you again. There's nothing here. There's no solicitation, there's no facilitation, there's no assault, there's no murder, there's not a text message, there's not a phone call with them, and they aren't telling you the story. Make them tell you why they investigate you. Make them tell you why they need to investigate all the people that help these folks escape. And if you weren't talking about conspiracy, how did he conspire or solicit Justin Jones? Have you heard anything about that? Who's Jamarcus Johnson? You heard a single word out there? They're all together in a conspiracy. All you have is Cornelius' word. He's the linchpin in this whole case, and none of us would trust him. And sure as hell would want one. And then we have phone records that actually actually think. But if you make it all nefarious and we get tempted to get up there and talk about it, sounds pretty good. You didn't do it, but you're not taking my word for it. You didn't prove it. This basic information said I proved something for it. The system shot down.
The system is shot to hell. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Are you kidding me?
Whole city of Memphis stupid and dumb. Everybody from the DA to the police officers to the prosecutors, they called y'all dumb. Called everybody, all one of them dumb. Are you kidding me right now? This case is not about the prosecutor. This case is not about Juke. This case is not about Justin. This case is not about Cornelius. This case is about Hernandez Govan. He is the person on trial. Not the city of Memphis, not the DA, not the prosecutors, not you, Hernandez Govan.
Ooh!
That's what we are here about today. That's
Girl.
what this truth has been about.
Ooh! Fire me up.
Embarrassed. Who should be embarrassed?
You.
Hernandez Govan. He is the person that made the choice to get engaged in this conspiracy. He made that choice. We've talked about choices. There are a few things in life that we can control, and our choices are one of them. What choices did Hernandez Govan make? You've heard that over the last few days of the choices that he's made. His choices led us here today. All right, police, they say they didn't do a good job. Convenience. Story. Something, ooh, no. Because they didn't arrest everybody has to be arrested for them to do a good job. There was a twofold investigation. Sergeant Browning and Sergeant Dabney both told you that. It's very convenient that that part was left out of the defense's argument. There's a twofold investigation. Homicide and MGU, those are two different entities within the Memphis Police Department. There was an ongoing investigation. And as Ms. Williams mentioned in her closing statement, this is a conspiracy. It's ongoing. To let you know that they were still investigating. Look at the call records. Look at when those call records were received. Now, defense will have you believe that, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of pages of call records. There are. But guess what? You'll have access to all of that, and they're on a flash drive. You can search.
Okay, so why did she pick up the envelope with the bullet fragments in it instead of the dozens and dozens of call pages? This is when you have taken it personal. This is when you know you haven't given it your best. This is when you needed to ask for a timeout before you started your closing argument rebuttal portion to regroup yourself so you can put together your final thoughts on it. But instead, people got emotional and it got the best of them. I'm not saying they had the best case, and I'm not saying they had the right info going forward, but they certainly let this get the best of them.
You can put in the numbers that were given to you when things happen. What happened with those calls? They're there for you. There's no hiding. There's no putting them aside. They're there for you to look at. So I wanted to clear up that misstatement. The focus at the time of the incident, November 17, 2021, was on a homicide.
It was not on who went to AutoZone, who went to Pressure World. The focus was on a homicide. A person was dead. The defense never mentioned that we are talking about a dead person. Dead. It's everybody's issue and fault but Hernandez Govan. The police didn't kill Adolph Thornton. Cornelius and Justin killed Adolph Thornton.
And neither did Govan. He didn't kill them either. You only got two people sitting up there on the video doing it.
But who put them together? Hernandez Govan. Look at the PowerPoint.
No, criminals stick together. Once they meet up somewhere, they in it, but they thicker than thieves. Yo, let me tell you something. I watched this trial, the first one, and I wasn't it, but for Johnson wearing the same clothes throughout this whole thing, the night before, the day before, whatever. But for that, I would have had a hard time defining if those were the people involved in the shooting. But they show he was wearing the same clothes for 2 days. They showed him in the vehicle, the same vehicle, riding out of his complex, taking his child to daycare services. They showed a lot of compelling evidence that was circumstantial, but it pointed you in that direction. Where is the evidence for Govan? The story didn't fit. The jurors then acquitted.
Presentation that Sergeant Brown provided. It has communications that contact log was put in there for Jook and Justin on the same day, about July 27th, around that time. They looked like they exchanged numbers. And if they knew each other before then, they wouldn't have had to exchange numbers. They would have already had each other's numbers. Look at that. Look at the call detail records of Cornelius Smith. You'll see about the first time he had contact in his phone anyway with Hernandez Govan was about July 25th, 2021. Around that time. All you have to do is plug the numbers in. It's not rocket science, because he had you believe. Hernandez Govan put these individuals together. And Govan's investigation, Govan's role in this conspiracy, as far as MPD was investigating, really didn't start until Angela Arnold gave a statement. Now, if we aren't to believe anything Angela Arnold says, then we are to believe call records, which Sergeant Garner said they don't lie. They're the records. They are what they are. So we can't believe that. We're not supposed to believe Angela either. We're not supposed to believe anything that's happened. The records are what the records are. But they bring in Sergeant Coburn or Lieutenant Coburn. Officers are bad. They don't do a good job. But he wants you to, well, this officer did a great job. Just this one that we bring in. He did a great job. Cornelius will tell you, he didn't just get a whole thing of Clorox and pour it all over the car and wipe that. He didn't spray some substance on a towel and wipe. He was still hurt. It was in the dark. He was in a rush. He was scared probably that Govan was going to come out and shoot him or do something because he was across the street from his house.
That's the freaky moment for me. If Govan knew that this was part of their conspiracy, why would he shoot him for being across the street on the property, the abandoned property, with the vehicle that they used in the co-conspirators' crime? He would have no reason to shoot him. How do you say that with a straight face? That's the thing that be driving me crazy. It be little things like that be driving me crazy. Because sometimes I don't think people hear themselves talking. Their lips be moving, but they don't hear what they saying.
But you want us to, defense wants you to believe that all the officers are bad, they did everything wrong. Except that part. The investigation was ongoing. Look at the call records. Look at when they were done. And you can still investigate. Because you want someone arrested tomorrow, it doesn't mean the evidence is all there. At this point, Judge is dead. Bobby Carter's dead. Joshua Taylor's dead. We can't arrest them. We're not digging them up from the ground. They are dead. That point is dead.
And your case was dead.
Browning just analyzed the numbers that were there. Garner said the records are what they are. They come from the phone company or from the phone. All Browning did was analyze it. He said, hey, these many calls came from this individual, this many contacts. That's all Browning was brought here to testify about. But because those records show Hernandez Govan communicating with the conspirators throughout the summer, throughout the fall, from July until November, well past November 17th, at least November 20th of 2021. Oh, Browning's a liar too. And when all he did was analyze the records. The records were made by Mr. Govan. Defense also brought up that basically Justin Johnson had access to Juke on his own paper. But we know the Govan made that connection. July 27, 2021. We know that. We see that in the call records. We see Govan already had Juke's information. Govan already had Justin's information. This is by July 27, 2021. Govan had Cornelius' information. Govan texts Justin address to Juke's smoke shop. And the contact was created between the two while they were there. But guess who did not have contact with Juke? Hernandez. He was a part of this conspiracy as well. And he got up here and he testified, and he told you that he really didn't have much contact with Juke. Guess who he was communicating with? Hernandez Govan. That's who he was communicating with. And let's look at the definition of conspiracy. You just have to create that at least with just one other person. So if you take defense at his word that Justin Johnson had other conspiracies going on and this was something separate, Hernandez Govan was still egging on Cornelius. He promised to get Cornelius paid. Cornelius didn't have direct access to Juke. He told you he was trying to still get his money. December 2nd, 2021, he sent a message from Angela Arnold's phone via Instagram message. He said he could just straight out put it, hey man, I want my money. I did what I was supposed to do. He said he sent him a message trying to get his attention. A week later, he's arrested. Hernandez Govan was the link between all of them. Hernandez was just, even if the order, if it did, that's still being investigated, but if the entire hit came from Juke, it was communicated to Govan, who then put it out to Justin and Cornelius. Hernandez Govan did that. The defense also makes the assertion that for 2 weeks, Hernandez Govan didn't have any kind of contact with any of the people who did the kill. He didn't have contact with Cornelius. He didn't have contact with Justin. The phone records will tell you that that is not true. It's simply not true. The phone records are there. There was contact. There was contact the day before. There was contact the day before that. There was contact days before that. And even if they didn't talk on the phone, what is stopping them from walking through this house?
Pause. What was stopping you from showing in your evidence that he stopped at some house. This is the moment. This is a defining moment right here. There's so many of them. But to come up here and be in your closing arguments to the jurors, you need to be confident in the information that you are putting before them. And this lacks confidence. It's not no ifs at this point. It's all or nothings. You need to be telling the story from what had happened was, not still trying to assume something happened. This closing argument, this case is definitely a teachable moment in their world.
Communication is there. Doing everything to take away from the fact that this trial was about Hernandez Govan. And there's nothing that says, okay, if we don't talk within 2 weeks, that all this is out the window. Nothing in the jury instructions that the judge gave you or read to you said, all right, this conspiracy ends, we don't talk in a week. This is not girlfriend and boyfriend stuff. This conspiracy was ongoing. Hernandez Govan is just trying to pull himself away at this point. But this, Justin and Cornelius, they were put together by Govan. It's been reiterated several times. All right, even if you believe what the defense says, say Justin was conspiring with others. Okay, two things could be true at the same time. But what we do know that shortly before the turkey drive, Cornelius said that Hernandez Govan called him and Justin together and was like, hey, y'all know this turkey drive getting ready to come up. Y'all ready? Y'all ready to make this money? Y'all ready to do this? Cornelius told us that.
Cornelius told y'all that, but what did the evidence show y'all that? Where's the corroborating evidence of what Cornelius told y'all? I think the press conference, when you lay down with flies, well, when you lay down with fleas, you come up, how that saying goes, however that is, that's how that is here.
So there was some communication shortly before the turkey drive, the week before Thanksgiving. And Govan just reminded them, this is your mission. This is what you're supposed to do. If you want this bread, you need to make it happen. You need to make sure that you take care of the advantage out there. You need to make sure that this is what you do. So Justin chose, even if there were other conspiracies, just give it. There were other conspiracies on the side.
They would have been better off talking about this was gang related. And let me tell you why. Because, you know, in a gang, they always say you have to perform some kind of act in order to be jumped in. They were better off saying that he was promised an opportunity to be in I don't know, to get his record produced or whatever. Had he done, this was his initiation. They would have been better off with that than doing what they doing right here. But
on November 16th, 2021, Justin Johnson chose Cornelius. He chose Cornelius. The same Cornelius that he was introduced to through Hernandez Govan. That same day, Justin Johnson sent a turkey text. It's the same text that the defense has entered in the evidence. He sent that on November 16th. The defense just showed you there was some communication with Chuck on November 16th. On November 17th, again, the day of the murder, the day that Dolph was killed. Even if there were, again, other conspiracies, Justin Johnson chose Cornelius Smith to go on a hunt with him. He chose to go on a hunt with him. He chose him the day before, he chose him on the day of. And Cornelius Smith said the only way he knew who Justin Johnson was because of Hernandez Govan. He told you that several times. Then we talk about Cornelius. Let's talk about his testimony. Cornelius was a state's witness. Prosecutors are probably not gonna be hard and screaming at their own witness. The point is to get the witness to talk so that you, the jury, can understand what's going on. They're a witness. Cornelius at this point has already testified in a previous trial. He has no reason to come in here and lie to you about what he did. He said and told you, as you watch the video of the murder of Adolph Thornton, he told you that's me with the big gun to kill him. Now, if any part of that is if he's to lie about, why lie about him killing somebody? That's where you're lying. He didn't lie about that. He told you. I mean, I did. But I wouldn't have known Justin Johnson except for Hernandez Govan. He put us together to get this done. He told you, the defense attorney, like several times, that he was under the influence. You saw the video. Hernandez Smith was up there. He was high. Even the questions that were asked of him were confusing. And he told me, I don't remember. I had taken some pills, and we learned he'd been taking pills. But why at this point say anything different? Even Angela Arnold said he took some pills this day. Yeah, he may have been fine, but he told you. I've been doing this for a long time. It may not affect me the same way that it affects someone who doesn't take pills. But in addition to the pills he was taking, he took some Tylenol PM. The defense tried to make it seem like it was just, a headache medicine. But he was getting that itch. He saw the end of the road coming for him. He knew the marshals were behind him. He knew it. He's taking them pills. So we try to get a statement out of him that day. He's all over the place. He's confused. Doesn't really say much thing. But he gives a statement eventually. And he tells you on the stand what happened. How Mr. Hernandez Govan did all of this in motion. The defense, paints him as a liar. Hernandez said his game to win. Well, Angela, she's still with him. Some kind of game. Letitia Jackson, his mother, he had enough game where she was, she took his phone. He handed over his phone to her the day he got arrested. And Miss Ferguson, the neighbor. She said he's a sweet baby, just sweet.
I'm so confused. Are you telling the world that these people are stupid? This is so condescending. It's crazy.
He won't be. Just slow. He got the house. She didn't have a bad thing to say about it. Then he didn't give her $500, or someone didn't give him $500 for it. I don't know Miss Ferguson is the neighbor that happened to. They're on the street of several neighbors. But he brings sweet little Miss Ferguson. There's nothing bad to say about Cornelius. Cornelius, his testimony was backed up by Angela, by the evidence and phone records, by murder. All that is backed up. Okay, you have looks like an AutoZone receipt in a picture of it. Phone up. You have access to the picture of that receipt. It was a picture that was in the phone that Hernandez took. It was in Browning's presentation. Look at the receipt. Blow it up. Stretch it out. You'll see that was taken, it looks like AutoZone, and it was a receipt from November 20th, 2021. In the end, all of this points back to Hernandez Govan. He got the ball rolling. He kept the ball rolling. He kicked the ball in the end. He introduced Cornelius Smith and Justin Johnson for the purpose of taking out members of PRE. One member of PRE being Adolph Thornton. That's where the conspiracy started.
Again, all fingers point back to Hernandez Govan.
Where?
Hernandez Govan. Cornelius Hernandez Govan. Shook, as the defense keeps wanting to throw out Hernandez Govan. And why go to Hernandez Govan house after they commit the murder? Because that was comfortable to them. No one ever said these were the smartest killers. They didn't plan on getting shot. That wasn't part of it. When we get shot, we're gonna go here. But they'd already had the getaway car at Hernandez Govan house.
But they got shot before.
At Hernandez Govan house back in.
They got shot before they left the car there. What they saying is they could have ran across the street to Govan at that time.
July. If they would ever meet up during the time of the conspiracy, from June of 2021 until March of whenever they were arrested, they would meet at Hernandez Govan's house. Want to go shoot a video? Go to Hernandez Govan's house. They're all in the video. Park your getaway vehicle? Go to Hernandez Govan's house. Park your motor vehicle? Hernandez Govan, that's the person. Now, why did they not go in? Maybe he wasn't there right then. Maybe he was like, someone went down, I'm getting out. Who knows? Well, we know what happened. We know where they went. We know that the murder vehicle was parked there. We know that the getaway truck that they used to get somewhere else was parked in front of Govan's house. We know that. Even Cornelius Smith told you, Cornelius Smith told you that Justin wanted him to meet him on the day of the murder. He wanted him to meet at Govan's house. Cornelius said he couldn't get over there. So Justin came and picked him up. Again, all of this going back to Hernandez Govan, as much as the defense tried to deflect and get you to choose different deflections, it all points back to Hernandez Govan. Hernandez Govan had a choice. He chose to bring Cornelius and Justin together. He chose to encourage them to have a hunt, to go on hunts. He already knows, but the biggest battle was done. He knew that Cornelius had a drug habit and that he needed money. And he played upon it. He prayed upon it. And he put them together with someone who was just as hungry from him. Justin and Cornelius were put together by Hernandez Govan. He chose to ask each of them for a cut of the proceeds. He chose conspiracy. Hernandez Govan chose murder. Adolph Thornton will never get to experience many of the things we take for granted in getting old. He will never get to experience gray hair. He will never get to experience wrinkled skin, crackling knees.
What the hell? People normally say when somebody is a deceased person, the decedent will never get to experience grandchildren, graduations, not gray hair and cracked knees. Shucks, he had 3 bullets inside of him. He was lucky to be alive then. He was living day by day at that moment. Lady, bye.
He didn't get to choose to grow old. That was taken from him and put in motion by Hernandez Govan. You, the jury, you have a choice. The choice is not yours. You have a choice in whether you hold Hernandez Govan accountable for his role in this murder, for his role in this conspiracy. And I ask that you choose to find Hernandez Govan guilty of murder in the first degree and guilty of conspiracy. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm picking up on page 27. The deliberation order of consideration. In reaching your verdict, you shall first consider the offense charged in the indictment. If you unanimously find the defendant guilty of that offense beyond a reasonable doubt, you shall return a verdict of guilty for that offense. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of that offense, or have a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt of that offense, you shall then proceed to consider whether or not the defendant is guilty of the next lesser included offense in order from greatest to least within that count. You shall not proceed to consider any lesser included offense until you have first made a unanimous determination that the defendant is not guilty of the immediately preceding greater offense, or you unanimously have a reasonable doubt for the defendant's guilt of that offense. If you have a reasonable doubt for the guilt of the defendant as to all offenses charged and included in that count, you shall return a verdict of not guilty and proceed to the next count. Verdict. Count 1. The charged offense in the first count of the indictment is conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The lesser included offenses in order of consideration from greatest to least are facilitation to wit, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, solicitation to wit, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, and now, there is something, couple things we do. Pages 30, the verdicts will be, we, the jury, found the defendant guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Embrace included in count 1 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names as foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of facilitation to wit, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, as embraced and included in count 1 of the indictment. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of this offense, your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of facilitation to wit, conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, embraced and included in count 1 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of the next lesser included offense in order of consideration from greatest to least. If you find the defendant is guilty of a lesser included offense, your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of placing that offense in that blank, embrace and included in count 1 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If upon all the proof you have a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt of the offenses charged and included in count 1 of the indictment under the law defines and explained to you, it is your duty to acquit him, and your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty as to count 1. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. Count 2. You will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant is guilty of this offense, your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of second-degree murder as charged and included in count of the indictment. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of this offense, your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder, including and embraced in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of the next lesser included offense in order of consideration from greatest to least. If you find the defendant is guilty of a lesser included offense, your verdict will be, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of placing that offense in that blank, embrace and included in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If upon all the proof you have a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt of the offenses charged and included in count 2 of the indictment under the law defined and explained to you, it is your duty to acquit him, and your verdict will be, We, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. When you retire to the jury room, you will first select one of your members as foreperson who will preside over the deliberation.
Hold on 1 second, I
When you
missed that.
The verdict, the foreperson will check the count 2. You will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt the defendant is guilty of this offense, your verdict will be: we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree murder as charged in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of second-degree murder as charged and included in count 2 of the indictment. If you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant is guilty of this offense, your verdict will be: we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder, including and embraced in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If you unanimously find the defendant not guilty of this offense, you will next inquire whether the defendant is guilty of the next lesser included offense in order of consideration from greatest to least. If you find the defendant is guilty of a lesser included offense, your verdict will be: we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of, placing that offense in that blank, embraced included in count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. If upon all the proof you have a reasonable doubt of the defendant's guilt of the offenses charged and included in count 2 of the indictment under the law defined and explained to you, it is your duty to acquit him, and your verdict will be: we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty of count 2 of the indictment. Check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign one of your names to the verdict as foreperson. When you retire to the jury room, you will first select one of your members as foreperson who will preside over the deliberation. When you have reached a verdict on a particular count, the foreperson will check the corresponding box on the verdict form and sign his or her name to the verdict as foreperson. Take the case, consider all the facts and circumstances fairly and impartially, and return to the court with verdicts that truth dictates and justice demands. Now, there is something of these things. Pages 33, 34, and 35 are your verdict forms. So I kept referring to check the corresponding box. These are the corresponding boxes. So I count 1 and 2 pages for count 2. I also have here the official copy of the jury charge. There are a couple of minor changes that I've made, like I clocked one misspelled word, couple misspelled words. And I've made those changes on here, nothing that's going to change the structure specifically. But the official copy is going to go back to the back. Please do not write on it. You're writing your own copy. Just use this as the official copy if there's any discrepancy on what you may have. Right, so this is the official copy. So is everybody in a good position for the middle? No, we should be the court to do that. All right, we shall choose 4 alternates.
All right, that's that on that. All right, let me take this away. Let me go through the YouTube street and see what other court case I might want to opine on in the time that we have left. I will not be doing that case. I will not be doing that. I think she's still doing deliberate jury selection is going on over there. Let me see what else is on. Let me see what else is going on around town while I'm still doing this. All right, I'm gonna go listen to that. Maybe I won't be doing anything. Not guilty verdict shocks or no, it's not shocking. This is a bombshell to whom? You know, sometimes would be bombshells to me be some of these guilty verdicts, right? I don't even want to go there. I just this YouTube lawyering around here be having me shook. I'm not. I'm just over it. Let's see what this Memphis attorney had to say.
I believe we had the opportunity to.
All right, hold up. Let's see what this guy has to say. Cause I'm just curious. This is a Memphis attorney's opine on this. And we're both listening to it. We're listening to it here on Motown. From the courtroom to Mo's courtyard. Let's see what's going on here.
To turn now to ABC 24's Kevin McNamara, who joins us now with a guest to kind of help break down some of what this means. Kevin?
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. We're joined by Alex Wharton, the Wharton Law Group. Alex, thank you for being here. I guess, what's your first reaction? First question.
Well, I wish I could say I was a soothsayer and predicted it, but I did not. Somewhat surprised, especially considering some of the lesser included offenses that the jury was instructed that they could consider. But as we heard, this was a very short trial, 3 days of actual proof and some proof from the defense, which is not that common. And then we get to a verdict in less than 24 hours of further deliberation. So somewhat surprised, but the juries know what they want to do pretty quickly. And typically, kind of the rule of thumb that we follow as defense lawyers is the longer that the jury deliberates, the better it is for your client. They're discussing certain things, but this was a very limited amount of information, very limited jury verdict form that they had to consider essentially 3 charges, all wrapped around the same thing. So it wasn't a lot of complexity there. It was really about, did they believe the state's main witness, or did they?
I thought it was 3 charges too, but it turned out to be it turned out to be the charge or lesser included. The charge or lesser included. It didn't turn out to be 3 charges, which is weird, but that's why I was taken back because I thought it was supposed to be 3 charges too. So somewhere I missed something where something got changed to 2.
And that's what it came down to.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like in a case like this, there's not that much physical evidence to deal with at all, right? The state was never alleging that Govan was the man who pulled the trigger.
Right.
So his argument is, why are you believing
what? Right. The entire case is credibility of what he says, Cornelia says, as opposed to, well, we don't have to say anything as the defense, but do you believe the state's main witness? A young man who has a lot to gain or lose based upon his testimony, and not just this trial, but prior trials, who's facing the same charges, who was actually admitted to be the gunman, the one with the most powerful weapon. And so when you deal with that, and then a lack of true evidence, no concrete text messages to show, yes, we got him, or this is the
no concrete evidence to show
plan, or we are here. Nothing, no content. The only thing that I understand the state to have produced to the jury for them to consider were, you've got multiple phone calls, and for Mr. Govan to be the admitted dealer of the state's main witness of supplying pills and all those things, that would not be a surprise if you've got multiple contacts. They live in the same neighborhood. You can't just go off of, well, I called this person a ton of times to prove a conspiracy case. That's a little bit of a stretch.
Yeah. So what happens now then?
Well, I think, as the state someone alluded to in their closing argument yesterday, and someone in the way of the proof through one of the law enforcement witnesses, are there additional parties who could be complicit in the conspiracy? I don't know if that's the case. We heard Mr. Mims' name mentioned a lot, but he's now deceased. So obviously nothing can come of that. It just, I think they need to take a step back and probably regroup and see if the investigation needs to go anywhere, or if it just rests there. They do have at least 2 of the individuals, the most complicit, the actual shooters, accepting responsibility in one case and being found guilty in the other case.
Yeah. So do you think this makes it more or less likely that they're going to be able to go after, higher parties?
Less likely. I mean, you would be putting the state's main witness on now for a 3rd or 4th or 5th trial. And every single time that he goes and gets on the stand, the hope is his testimony changing. And bit by bit, piece by piece, it's just like he becomes a weathered person at that point. I mean, that's a taxing thing to be on the stand, multiple trials for multiple hours at a time, and have to remember and be consistent with everything.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, it was a pretty quick trial. We were to come to this conclusion within just 3 or 4 days.
Right.
Seems like the jury knew kind of what they were going to come to.
Well, I don't know if that's the case that they knew. I mean,
Well,
obviously,
they-
from a human perspective,
right, they
they're told
decided
not
quickly.
exactly. I mean, it was one of those things that they probably had to go back into the jury deliberation room and say, do we believe what he said? The state main witness. Forget what the girlfriend said for the most part. Law enforcement's testimony wasn't really helpful whatsoever. The autopsy, it was what it was. But does this young man's testimony line up? And do we have enough? And what a lot of people fail to remember is that it's not just beyond a reasonable doubt. It is beyond a reasonable doubt for a criminal case. But in our jury instructions, as Judge Johnson Mitchell read to the jury yesterday, it requires a moral certainty. And that level of certainty that you would exercise in your most important affairs, where to put a sick parent, where to move, things higher than that, quite frankly, what to do about a parent who's suffering with a deliberate, just a horrible illness or sickness. Those are the levels of certainty that you have to have when convicting a person, because truthfully, you're obviously taking the person's freedom away. And the jury knows the stakes, even though they don't know the potential consequences and aren't told about the punishment options. They know the consequences. You're dealing with the most serious offense of first-degree murder. And when you do that, the state better come correct with enough evidence to let you rise above that level of certainty from a moral perspective that you need to have to convict.
Yeah, it's a great point. What do you think this means for Memphis? Then, young Dolph is such a beloved figure here. You've got someone on trial being the alleged mastermind. Does it feel like justice is served?
Well, I don't know. His iconic status and his legendary status, not just in the music industry, but what he's created with his label record, I think that continues to go on. I think we need closure, right or wrong. The verdict is what the verdict was. We can disagree with it. We can agree with it.
That is true.
And we have to look forward, quite frankly, as to what we can do as a city, not only to honor the legacy of Mr. Thornton, young Dolph, but bigger than that. How do we cultivate additional artists, young artists, let them do it the right way? We've got young artists coming up now who we can support, continue to encourage them to preach in their own method, the right things, that you can make it out of the worst of circumstances, but you don't have to stay there.
I'm confused. They shouldn't be able to express themselves? Man, there's freedom of speech all over the world. By these people are expressing themselves. The youth today express themselves. The youth of yesterday express themselves. This is a part of maturing and growing up. What people need to learn how to do is how to effectively communicate with each other and solve conflicts without violence. You have to be able to know how to deal with adversity so that you come out on the other side of it. I don't know how you teach that, because here I sit in the YouTube space with other content creators, and at any given moment, you can become the subject of somebody else's, you can become attacked by somebody else and find yourself defending yourself endlessly against space, digital images, to a point where it mars you into a reaction that can be devastating to your livelihood, including your liberty. We've seen it in the Maneater case, Louise Manuel case that's going on with what happened at the Vegas Strip. We know about it if you've been in some of these toxic environments. For me, it was the cemetery and dealing with adversity there. So if you don't know how to deal with the negativity and you're not emotionally mature enough to walk away from it or not to allow it to take over your sanity, there'll be more cases all over the place. There'll be more of this everywhere you go, because people have not learned how to deal with their conflicts. If people can make rap songs since I can't remember, and they can critique other people, it does not necessarily need to result in an execution style turnout. These used to just be words of I don't know. I don't know how to describe the words, because I can't remember. I can remember where there was beef in the terms of whatever took place between Tupac and Biggie Smalls will probably be the most the one that we remember the most from my generation. But these type of instances and these type of crimes right here is what the next generation, the generation after me, what they are remembering and going through. So each one of us lives in the era where we've learned or we've had to deal with it, or we've just had to become part, this became part of our norm. It all depends on how you process your behavior and how you process these things.
Give them something higher to look forward to. So I think that's the message for the city. We've got great talent here. What we do to encourage that and foster that is what's most important, and that will be the ultimate honor of Young Dogs Black.
Bye. Y'all got a whole in Memphis, right, or in Tennessee. All I know, you've got another rapper earlier this Say So P, who was shot down in the middle of y'all streets. And y'all left his body out there for us to see it. His mama has been looking for justice, and we don't even know what the status of that case is. And if this is how you handle Young Dolph with this person, I'm not saying that you don't need to go after the conspiracists or the people that engaged in the conspiracy to execute someone, but you need to have that conspiracy and lay it out beyond a reasonable doubt. Lay it out. Put the work in to evidence it. You want to take away people's freedom. You need to put in the work to do that. You need to show where that's necessary. We got too many people. This is a Mo Justice moment. Sitting behind bars that needed some other kind of remedy. They needed a different kind of relief, and it wasn't being incarcerated. Poor Cornelius, he'll be sitting behind bars, hopefully, but it's because a drug addiction had him out here looking silly. Had him out here engaging in a homicide. I mean, at the end of the day, the moment Cornelius Smith put that first drug in his system, he wrote his path to where he is at today. Would I prefer him to be available to rehabilitation? Yeah. However, every next day of his life, he needs to be doing that behind bars because he took somebody's life and he did it in such a careless way. And then he testified 2 times, Mr. Snitcher. He testified twice and he didn't restore the confidence, public confidence in what we were seeing. Because we know that the process to get him to speak will result in him being amongst us again. Something just is not right with that solution. It used to be stitches, snitches get stitches. Now it's like snitches get extensions, that they get to extend their time out here commingling with us. The people who are law-abiding citizens and behave in a lawful manner. As he said, he was unable to share with us what Dolph did to him other than his execution style of that man would have offered him some time to have some more drugs in his system. The stuff around here is just too crazy, if you ask me. It's just too crazy. It's just too crazy. Anyway, let's see what else this guy had to say, this attorney's reaction.
Yeah, and then from the state side, this is now the second kind of high-profile case in recent months in which they failed to secure a conviction. It feels like, is that?
Oh, high-profile case that they failed to secure a conviction? Which one was it? The human pinata case with officers of their own? Is that what they're talking about?
say anything about kind of the prosecutorial ability?
I don't think so. I mean, sometimes you have the proof and sometimes you don't. Defense attorneys, we're accustomed to taking a lot of punches. I would say, any defense attorney who says that they have a perfect record is probably pleading their clients out every single time they get. So you preserve a perfect record.
Right.
But those who go to trial, you withstand some punches, and so we have to get used to it. But the state typically is going to have a 90+% conviction rate. So that's a hard task to continue to do, especially in a conspiracy case where you don't have anyone else to testify to support the main witness of the state of Tennessee. So I think they would.
You didn't have the evidence to support the main witness. You needed to have the evidence. They were missing the evidence in this case.
They'll continue to prosecute the lesser profile cases, but those that are just important or as important as this case. So their work goes on. I don't have any concern or questions about the ability of the prosecutors to do their job here.
Yeah. How rare was this sort of case then, generally speaking, where you don't have, again, there's no allegation that the man on trial was the one who pulled the trigger?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very rare case because there's nothing other than that main witness. The other co-conspirator, Straight Drop, can't remember his actual name, but he was convicted already. He's not testifying to help the state whatsoever. So it rests with this young man's credibility. But conspiracy cases, by and large, on the state side are very rare. And if they have those, typically they want to have more than just the word of the individual. They want to have things that corroborate. They try to do that with the cell data, but that only gets you so far. That just shows that calls were made. It doesn't talk about the content of the calls or the discussion. There's no recording. There's no Facebook messages or exchanges. So they want to have something that supports that, even if you don't have the smoking gun as to prove, hey, that conversation took place. You have enough circumstantial evidence to convince the jury, hey, look, this is what I mean when we say beyond a reasonable doubt into a moral service.
Yeah. So is this kind of the closing of the book then, in your eyes?
I would estimate so, unless something drastically unknown or unforeseen happens. I mean, we're talking about an incident that took place now almost 4 years ago, in November. You would think and hope that law enforcement has turned every corner and stone that they could to identify those people who were involved in it. Never say never, but I would be highly surprised if anything else comes up the prosecution.
All right. Well, Jordan, thank you for being here. We appreciate it. There's a lot of great info there, really helpful perspective. Ruben, we're going to send it over back to you, and we have a lot more to get to here.
So in this AJ's.
All right, so that makes sense to me. Let me see. Let me just take a peek and see what they're doing over here with this one. Oh, don't she look nice and pretty today? If you don't know, this is the Adelson trial.
Okay, so one of the things the court's going to instruct you is that reasonable doubt arises from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or lack of it. So this is another place where I like to use a hypothetical. And for this one, we're going to adopt the hypothetical. So the hypothetical is.
Actually, they cleaned her up a lot. She looks pretty good.
Obviously, surveillance showing somebody that is consistent with the defense features. So,
What is this? Did they pick the jurors? I never really seen the judge get off the bench. I don't know what's going on, so we're going to hear about this. We're going to watch this for the next hour. That lady on the screen is Donna Adelson. She's the mother. She's
going to take a break for the moment, give you an opportunity to stand up and stretch your legs if you need to. I recognize that we are going through this process and it has been lengthy. If you need to stretch or take a moment to do so, you have the opportunity right now. Five minutes.
Of course, I don't know what's going on, so we'll all find out together. I want to give you an update. I put now on the handle to this insert. So here I am with the handle to the insert. So when I put it in and out the bag, it's looking cute. Look at my look. Let me come over. It's looking cute. I'm not really mad at this. It looks cute. But let me get my bag and see how it is gonna look on the inside of the bag. Oh, hold on. Ouch. I'm gonna hit myself on the green screen. Hold up, wait a minute. Cause it's here's I'm making an insert for my never. Why I keep calling this the never full when it's the speedy? So it fits in there, but I needed to have. So hold up a minute. Maybe I'll go around. Oh, I might take that out. That'd be part of my problem. I might take that out into it. Hold up. Hold up. I don't want it to be too high though. I'm taking on my little wallet, my wallet's out my bag. Okay. So let us see. I'm not finished yet. All right, hold up. So here's my let me stretch this out. So I'm trying to make a bag insert. So here's a bag insert for my bag. Ooh. Okay. All right, all right, all right. Ooh, that is so cute. Now my question to myself is, should I take that out and make it a little bit taller? So I feel like I can go around. See, this is why I be doing too much. Hold up. So, all right. So we know this is how this is gonna come. Oh, look at. Ooh, I like that. Hold up. Wait a minute, though. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me see. Hold up, because I want to make sure that I have enough room for it. I feel like I could have went. I think I could do about 6 more rows. Let me do it from the outside. So so in comparison to my bag, I feel like I could go 6 more rows on the inside. You see that? Like I feel like I could have done more. But look at that. Look at that. And then I would just pop this in here when I need to put it in there. All right. Moment of truth. Should I take it out and do? I feel like it can go 6 more rows up and then put in the handle. No. What are you gonna do? I think I'm gonna go back and do the 6 more. I'm gonna go back and do the 6 more rows. That is so cute. Or maybe I should, let me see something. This what happens when I be creating stuff from my head top. Okay, 1 second. Put this in here. All right, stop. I'm gonna have my wallet in here. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna go back and do the six. I'm gonna go back and do the sixth row because I feel like put this over there. Cause look, this is what I have. I only have my wallet in here. Only the wallet's in here. Oh my goodness. But this is gonna be my bag insert. Okay. I'm over here, over here making bags. Let me see, because I was gonna end this with some cute little topping on it. All right, Mo, what do you want to do? I feel like it's the first one. I shouldn't be so whatever, but I feel like because I would have made it wider. No, I'm gonna take it out and I'm gonna do what I do. What I do. Oh, I'm gonna do what I do, what I do. I'm gonna do what I do, what I do because I need it to be the way I want it to be. All right, so we're gonna take that out. So this is one row coming out, and then that's gonna be two rows coming out. And I'm gonna do it for another 6 rows. Sorry. Sorry. Ooh, it's not. That's one row coming out. Then this is gonna be the second row coming out. Actually, it's 3 rows coming out. This other row coming out. All right, so that's that. Boom, 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 boom. 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 Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So with 3 rows that I took out, that's number one. And then I need, all right. Okay. So they look like they on jury selection for this case. Where's my snipping, dude? Because I'm going to need this later on in life.
Okay, so I'm gonna start that hypo over. So reasonable doubt can arise from the evidence, conflict in the evidence, or a lack of evidence. And so, a hypothetical, the bank robbery. Someone goes in, witnesses identify the defendant from the stand. Video evidence shows the defendant on the surveillance. Closing argument, the defense attorney gets up and argues that the state didn't put on any evidence to show that it wasn't the defendant's twin brother. How do you know it wasn't his twin? What kind of doubt would that be? Let's go to.
What the hell is this?
What kind of doubt would that be? Does anyone agree with her?
What the hell is this? Okay.
23.
This is jury selection.
Oh, sorry. Keep confusing the chart's different. Number 11. That's speculative. There's no evidence the defendant has a twin.
This?
Now,
I would leave.
The defendant took the stand in that case.
I would leave.
Testified that he has an identical twin brother who is a bank robber. And oh, by the way, I have an alibi. Now it's evidence. You understand the difference? Yes? Okay. That is a doubt which attaches to the evidence from the witness stand.
that was admitted during the trial. Reasonable doubt. Now, what would the state have to do about that reasonable doubt in order to convict that defendant? They'd have to exclude that doubt, which attaches the evidence.
His fingerprints versus his brother's.
We're gonna get there. Thank you. So let's go back to that hypothetical. In the surveillance video, and the witnesses testify that the robber is wearing a mask. Well, no one can identify him. Whose fault is that? Is that the state's fault? Number 8, is that the state's fault? Yeah. You can't prove who it is. Whose fault is it?
The burden would be on the state.
Right. So there's no identification. So the lack of identification is what? Reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
Let's go back to that same hypothetical. You got a mask. Robert's not wearing gloves and he touches the table, he touches the glass door. You can see all that in the surveillance video. Goes to your fingerprint question. But reasonable doubt can arise from the lack of evidence. In this hypothetical, the detectives never bothered to dust for prints. Would everyone agree that that would be a lack of evidence which bears on a material element of the offense, identity? Would everyone agree to that?
Yeah.
And that the state has failed to exclude that by not having evidence. Does anyone disagree with that?
I am dumb right now.
Back to the same hypothetical. Surveillance video shows that the robber's on his phone. Witnesses tell law enforcement that the robber was talking to someone. Law enforcement later seizes that robber's phone, but they never search it to determine if there was a text or call made. Would everyone agree that there's a lack of evidence there?
Yes.
Another way reasonable doubt can arise is based on a conflict in the evidence. In the hypothetical that I just gave you, can someone identify any potential conflicts?
What? Are they looking for the smart
What
juror?
if they were to dust the table or glass for fingerprints, but it's not conclusive?
This is stupid.
Somebody who's been placed earlier. Doing that same thing.
Now, the state, before we move on, does anyone agree that witnesses that come and take the stand are not perfect, they're not actors? Does anyone expect to see what you would see if you watch a TV program or a movie? The 13, we were smiling.
I think before stepping into the whole process, there's an idea in your head, put in there, like I'll tell them what it all looks like. Instead of in a kind of a shattered, you go with your what about that.
I ain't never seen nothing like this.
This is what? Judge is going to instruct you on how to weigh the credibility of witnesses. Now, the state brought up a point, this is something that happened 11 years ago. Does anyone think that if someone doesn't have an accurate memory, that that's something that's going to matter here? Number 22. That's going to matter?
Accurate memory?
How do you determine if someone is giving you an accurate answer? Would you compare it to the other evidence?
Maybe. Maybe you compare. Yes.
I'm sorry.
This is crazy.
One of the instructions the judge gives you is you can believe or disbelieve any testimony from any witness. Okay?
You're the determiner of facts. It's only accurate if you say so.
Talked a little bit about co-defendants. I'm going to talk about something else. Informants.
Ooh, let's talk about informants. Oh!
Why would a jailhouse snitch cooperate with the state?
To get favorable treatment.
Number one, what would motivate a jailhouse snitch? What?
Consideration in their case.
In evaluating the testimony of an informant or a snitch, should you consider what benefit they got in determining whether or not they're being truthful?
It'd be nice to know.
Why are you shaking? What do you mean? They could have been bad at them. Because simply telling them doesn't mean you're something bad or does not do something bad. So they could get the benefit, but it doesn't mean that what they're saying isn't truthful. Yeah, I mean they could be lying or telling the truth. Just because they got, you know,
I ain't trusting them. Yo, this is different. I'm not even gonna hold you. This is some different stuff. I ain't never seen this before. This is different. Everything, yo, Charlemagne the God used to say, Florida is crazy. The people in Florida is crazy. I will say to that, this is different. This is definitely different. To let you know, I'm taking out my handlebars. I'm taking out my handles back at the drawing board before I put them in. I gotta figure out which kind of trim I want to end off with on the top of my bag. I have to text somebody. Um, I just can't believe how they done cleaned up the mother. Like I'm just because she was looking different to me the other day. So this is just amazing.
Going back on the topic of informants or snitches. We had one opinion that just because they testify doesn't necessarily mean that they're being dishonest or wrong. Where do you find yourself? If you were to learn that the state compensated or gave a benefit to an informant. Okay. Number one.
Scale to 1 to 10?
Yes.
6.
Number 8.
Initially, I feel like it's unfair, but when you think about it, no one does anything for free. There's going to be a lot of risk to.
No one does anything for free.
With balance.
Yeah, risk versus reward. I think the higher the risk someone's willing to take for that reward.
Everyone agree with that? Getting a lot of head nods. Okay. Number 9.
I'd say it's fine.
23.
I agree with mostly what was said, if it's.
Are you referring to number 8, sir?
Yes, yeah.
Go ahead.
Number 11.
Number 5.
Number 12. Number 13.
And 4 or 5.
Number 14. I'm sorry? Number 25. Number 26. Can't read my own handwriting. Man. Yeah. Yes, thank you. Got a 5? 20? 19? 18? It's legal. Number 17? 16.
That'd be hard for me to say, just that general circumstance really kind of case like this.
Just a moment.
I need to know what they getting in return. So I would need to know. I would need somebody to tell me. So I would need to know. I would definitely need to know.
Does anyone think that the defense should have the same benefit there? Defense can do that as well.
Well, that's not legal.
I'm sorry? Could the defense offer a benefit to a witness? If I were to tell you that we can't, number 24, is that fair that we can't do that?
That's a process.
Right. Is that fair?
Yes, that's the way the law is.
Number 14. Fair. Now, has anyone here heard that a description of the role of a juror as having a duty to deliberate about the facts? Anyone? Getting some slight head nods?
They are the determiner of the facts.
And once you decide the facts, you apply the law to those facts.
Correct. That's how I see it.
What is deliberating?
Discuss the case that you just heard.
You trailed off at the end, I'm sorry. Does everyone agree with that? What does it take to deliberate? Do you
An open mind.
consult with each other?
Yes.
Some head nods? Does anyone here, bless you, anyone ever engage in a family discussion around the dinner table? Show of hands. Are there informal rules for that? Number 7. What are the rules that you're at? Have children that age before? Can be somewhat difficult to wrangle them. How do you encourage them to follow those rules?
This is gonna be hard for this crime right here. Having all these fathers on the trial or having fathers on this trial is going to be interesting because this is a grandmother that's supposedly co-conspired with her son to execute her son-in-law because this because she wanted to see the grandkids. She wanted to have her grandkids closer to her.
So you redirect them. Sometimes you gotta be stern. But you try to redirect them and you try to use your own methods of showing them an example. Now, for those of us who have older children, let's see. Number 11. I know what it's like to have 4 children. How do you determine whether the family discussion was successful?
Guess if we were all still speaking to each other.
Now, would it be accurate to say that the end result, the conclusion that is reached, coincided with your initial conclusion?
Not necessarily.
Now, if you felt strongly that your way was the right way, would you be capable of standing up to them and saying,
Yeah.
believe this? I hear you, I respect you, but I disagree.
Absolutely. That's exactly how it was in my house. That's right. Your opinion as well. That's all trying to understand each other and respect each other. That's all.
So in other words, can you accept that sometimes we just don't reach an agreement? Now, number 6. I think you touched on this a little bit earlier, but if you were engaged in that conversation and you disagree with everybody else's conclusion, but it's 6 o'clock on a Friday.
Oh, good question.
You're going to change your opinion so you could go get something to eat?
No.
I don't think so. Does everyone remember why that statement causes me concern? Are you going to change your opinion? Anyone here willing to change their opinion if they believe that their interpretation is correct? Anyone? Getting crickets.
I'll change my opinion if the evidence suits it. My opinion's not set in stone.
Well, let's back up a little bit. If you believe strongly after having this discussion that you're right, are you going to change your opinion so that everybody can go home?
There'd be a lot of peer pressure, I could see that, but me personally, my opinion goes out in publication on all kinds of stuff, because we stake our reputation on that as PhDs, so only good concrete facts really change my opinion.
So, short answer would be no, you wouldn't change your opinion.
No.
Would anyone change their opinion?
To go eat, so they could go home.
Getting shake. Okay, great.
That's very important to a defense team. They want to make sure that people that are.
Are there topics that you should not discuss when you're back in the church? Anyone want to volunteer an example?
You believe you may have heard secondhand inadvertently through somebody, work, home.
What about whether the defendant should testify? Is that something that you should discuss back there?
No, not at all.
What does it mean if the defendant doesn't testify? You discuss that. Number 7, should you discuss that the prosecutor decided to charge Mrs. Adelson? Well, you said earlier that if we've gotten this far, that It means something, right? Should that be something that you discuss?
No, I think that's something that.
Does it matter what clothing I wear or my client wears? Is that something that you should discuss back there?
I'm gonna finish this row and then I'm gonna get up out of here.
Number 13. Can you give me a definition of something that's, an example of circular reasoning?
No.
Argument that played that on himself.
I'm gonna give you an example too. I like that. I don't think everyone's gonna agree with me on this, but good guys don't make mistakes. Law enforcement officers are good guys or gals. Therefore, law enforcement officers are good, or I'm sorry, let me back up. Good guys don't make mistakes. Law enforcement officers are good guys.
So therefore they don't make mistakes.
Therefore, I don't make mistakes. Circular?
Yeah.
Not accurate, is it? Do we want to avoid that type of reasoning when you're deliberating?
Yes.
Anyone disagree with that? Does anyone think that law enforcement officer who testifies should be believed over somebody who's not a law enforcement?
No.
Anyone? Number 17?
Well, experts might.
When you're back there, would you be deliberating if you automatically accepted as truthful without the exercise of any skepticism the testimony of a law enforcement officer, number 17?
Ask me again, please.
Would you automatically believe testimony of a law enforcement officer without exercising any skepticism?
No.
You wouldn't be deliberating, would you? You're just accepting what they tell you. You got to question what is said to you, what is presented. Do you agree with that?
I did.
Does anyone disagree with that? You're just going to accept what is presented by the witnesses. Anybody? Good.
I know one thing. If I had to go through this right here, I'd be wishing not to be on this case.
When you're deliberating, you have concluded your conversations. You believe that you're right. You said that you're capable of standing your ground, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, what about the reverse? You go back there, you believe steadfast in your position, but then somebody else adds something that you hadn't considered. Are you going to then consider that as part of your deliberative process?
Yeah. The whole goal is to listen to other people and to come to a collective,
that you'll get,
a unanimous decision.
so that you should use your common sense. Common sense a process, or is it a result?
Common sense. Process up. These are good questions. Is common sense a process or a result? Common sense is a process.
So if common sense is a process, should you automatically accept the state's conclusions without discussing it?
No.
What should you do?
You should determine the facts. Why are you still stuck on common sense when he's asking you what should you do?
Are are you capable of saying if someone's common sense result, their process leads them to one conclusion, but your common sense process leads you to another? How do you resolve that?
Mine's when.
So that you assume is common sense and kind of stuff. What's so common about it? What are you thinking the common part of it? What do you actually think is so reasonable about it?
Thank you.
Common sense ain't so common.
Anyone disagree with it? Now, you've heard the court read the charges against my client. One of the things I want you to understand is what's going to be necessary as you are evaluating the evidence. Kappelman asked, how do you determine someone's intent? Everyone remember that? Not just, does somebody always say what they intend to happen? Shaking your head. How do you determine it though? With their words?
No, it's their actions too.
Now, what's clear is throughout the case, everyone understand that you don't reach a conclusion until you don't start deliberating until after all the evidence. Okay, so when you get to that point, all the evidence has been presented. At that point in time, you guys then have the opportunity to go back and discuss what the evidence means. Does everyone understand that? Shaking the heads, yes. Now, if the state establishes that there's a premeditated killing of Daniel Markel, and that Daniel Markel is dead, does that mean that it was done by the criminal act of my client? You need to be able to separate my client from the other individual. Everyone understand that? Principle. Captain discussed it earlier. The important thing to take from this is the state's going to have to establish Mrs. Adelson had a conscious intent for Daniel Markel. How do you determine if someone has that? Number 5. How do you determine if that happens? How do you determine if the state can prove that?
The more you listen to some of this stuff, the more crazier it sounds. Anyway, this is gonna wrap up my my day time of this stuff. I'll be back maybe tomorrow. Cause I'll be back maybe tomorrow. I got something to do tomorrow, but if I have time, I'll be back tomorrow.
Guilt by association.
Guilt by association. This is Mo. I've got to go.
There'd be testimony that my client's son, Charlie Adelson, was convicted. Does that mean, I want anyone, does that mean that my client has any involvement? He is guilty. Shaking your head no. Anybody saying yes? Is that conclusive in any way concerning Mrs. Adelson?
Mm.
Shaking of the heads.
Interesting.
7. Is that a factor that you're going to consider